E.B. Hill.
Oh, it was close.
Oh, baby, Jules edged out Coffin bought the tape.
This is what we do now, folks. This is where we're at.
Yeah. And AJC is going to appeal to try to go from 5th to 3rd.
And he's got a timestamp to say he actually said it at 5:57.
Exactly.
How about that? I mean, I didn't watch a pitch of it, but how about that pitching duel last night?
Huh? Woke up this morning, saw 1-0 at 10. I go, now, there you go.
Sale goes 3 hits through 7. Snell gives up his first hit in the 7th.
Yep.
I watched, I went to bed before it was over. Did not make the end of Red Sox, Texas. That was a pretty fun baseball game. They bring the reliever in, 2 outs. 7th inning, I think. Boston. They get 2 outs, got a runner on second. Pitcher just makes a great play in the infield to throw the runner out on a little tap back to the mound. They pull him. He's a right-hander to go lefty-lefty. First pitch, Seager goes yard. Take that away.
Yep.
All right, everybody. 20 seconds.
Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floormeister Studios. Floormeisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you on this Tuesday. Hope your week got off to a good start. Man, do we have a good show lined up for you today. I mean, caught Miller and Moulton by surprise. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. I don't know, Mark. It feels like football season when you wake up and I got 4 guests lined up for you. It's like, oh, man, how many days do we have, or has it started already?
No doubt. And you had them late last night, so I know your day was going well. I mean, we're all guilty of this, I believe. Maybe not. Maybe there are some of you that have a greater sense of yourself than others. But when you send a text and you're texting people and you don't get return text, after a while, it gets to you. Why haven't they texted me back yet? I'm waiting for them to text me back. Well, I sent them a text. Where's my text back? And it looks like everybody answered yesterday, David. There was no nerves, no fret. Everything came to pretty easily.
Oh,
and we got a hell of a show today.
Bada bing, bada boom. We'll talk a lot of football. Yes, we will. We'll talk a lot of football. We'll also talk a little NASCAR. I think today they're going to decide once and for all what it is they're going to do about that night race at Richmond on Sunday. They're going to take a win away or not? People are feeling it. Magic numbers, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, listen to how small they are. 11, 18, 23. Heck, we could throw 7 at the front of the list. 7 days until the Floormeisters Fantasy Football Summit. Go to MillerandMoulton.com and sign up. Dr. Roto, his cheat sheet, his analysis. All right. You get it ready. And not only that, I think many of you, Mark, when are you doing your fantasy draft? Is it next 2 weekends from now? Like, isn't
Uh,
this summit like within like a handful of days of when most everybody's doing their draft?
Yeah, we're doing ours the 25th, so it's perfect.
Yeah. That's why we jammed it in when we did. So this is perfect. This is like, you didn't pay attention most of the year in school, but you crammed perfectly and you do really well on the final. And then, weeks later, you've forgotten most of it. That's why the cheat sheet. You get to keep it with you. You get to pull it out in October and go, yeah, he did say that, didn't he? I got to keep that in mind this week. So sign up, millerandmoulton.com. Looking forward to seeing you a week from tonight. All right. I mean, Adam in our Twitch chat room, our loyal listener in the Panhandle, he's flying into Fort Lauderdale, driving across the alley. He got a room at the DoubleTree. He's doing the summit. He's staying over. I'm staying over too. I think Adam and I are going to have dinner and drinks.
Wow, look at you. Old school Moulton, sitting down with the listeners, breaking bread.
Well, see, now that I moved from the 239 to the 904, what is the 239? It's out of town. Okay. What is Moulton like when he's out of town?
Fantastic. In town, he's a drip. Out of town, he is a lot of fun. I'm telling you right now. Just got to get him away from home.
So you guys are getting my A game a week from tonight. millerandmoulton.com. Sign up. Floormeister's Fantasy Football Summit. Sometimes the sports world makes you and I look good. Not enough, I got to be honest, but sometimes it makes us look good. And what did we say yesterday? Previewing a baseball game last night. What did we say?
There was a game of the night. There was one game. If you were so inclined to stay up, there was one game worth watching. Snell and Sale going at it, one another. Giants and Braves. Giants been playing great baseball lately. The Braves have been struggling for a while with all their injuries, and the two aces go up and deliver.
And we said Chris Sale is a number one. And Chris Sale is going to take to the hill, and the Giants are going to get his best. Snell's been pitching great. Sale is the front runner in the National League for the Cy Young. And Snell's pitched the last month the best baseball of his life. Now, think about that. He's a two-time Cy Young Award winner. And in the last month, he's pitched better than he ever has in his career. And so, of course, Miller and Moulton expected to wake up this morning and see 8-7 the final. But no, they actually delivered.
One spit, Braves win. Sale with a 3-hitter through 7. Snell takes a no-no into the 7th before allowing his first hit.
The two guys struck out 23 and gave up 5 hits. Yeah, that's what it used to be like when aces grabbed the ball and said, you ain't getting nothing tonight and you're going to like it. Yeah. So Braves with the win, must needed for them. But little old-time baseball last night, Mark. Old-time hockey?
It was. Couple of aces doing their thing, and that's always great to see. I ended up watching the majority of the Red Sox-Texas game that was on TV last night. It was a pretty good baseball game. Went to 10. Red Sox get a walk-off.
Dramatic win that they really needed.
Really needed. After letting a 3-1 lead slip away and then getting 5-4 and 10. So nice win for the Sox last night.
Did you pay attention to the story in Milwaukee? I think we talked about this last year. So apparently, because there's a hotel in St. Pete also which has this reputation. I forget the name of it. So there's a hotel in Milwaukee, and legend has it it's haunted.
Okay.
No, seriously, legend.
No, I mean, I know because you got the one in St. Pete that's supposedly haunted as well. So I knew where you were going with this.
And so Mookie Betts, every time the Dodgers go to Milwaukee, he doesn't stay with the team. And the team's like, yeah, sure, Mook, do whatever. So Mookie rents out an Airbnb. And last night was a big night for Mookie. Came off the, injured list. He'd been on it for 6 weeks after the broken hand and what have you. So he's staying by himself at the Airbnb. Yeah, he homered last night, first game back.
Yes, he did. So did Ohtani.
Yes.
Kershaw pitched really well. The Dodgers looked like the Dodgers last night.
Yeah, let me tell you something. That top of the lineup, that Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, all right? I mean, in all seriousness, that's probably 3 Hall of Famers. I mean, the first two, look like they're going in for sure. I got $20 as Freddie Freeman makes the survey.
Okay.
I mean, he's going to be a borderline because he's not going to have huge power numbers or what have you. But Freddie Freeman's a terrific player and has been for a decade. But maybe not. But still, how about that Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, top of the order? That seems like a
Seems
problem.
like it's a difficult out or two.
It does. Yeah. So anyway, Betts homered, Ohtani homered, Dodgers won. So it was a nice little Monday night in baseball last night. Not everybody played. But, we had Padres and Diamondbacks are both red hot. They both kept winning.
Padres with against the Pirates with runners on, diving catch in center to win the game.
Save the game for the Padres. Yep. All right. And hey, the White Sox won.
Yes, they did. At the expense of the Yankees, they pounded the Bronx Bombers last night.
So Grady Sizemore gets a win. They're now 1-3 under him.
But Dolphin, I would think this morning, and we'll talk some Dolphins later in the show, has to have a little smirk on their face watching what's going on with the New York Jets.
I feel for Joe Douglas, even though I think Joe Douglas has been given a pass for the status of the Jets. He's been there long enough now. I don't think he gets knocked for his draft misses. He seems to only get credit for what he gets right. Well, how much has he gotten right? They've yet to have a winning season since he's been GM. But this one, I don't blame Joe Douglas, Mark. You and I we're both player guys. I'm more player than you, but we back the player a lot. And I don't know. This doesn't seem right what Hassan Reddick's doing. I got to be honest. This one, I'm willing to back the Jets on this one.
Well, Reddick now demanding a trade, which the Jets say they won't give him. They were unable to work out a contract. Reddick has not shown up for anything.
No. He's
not been, quote unquote, a team guy, David.
Well, that's not true, Mark. He showed up for the presser. Oh, nothing official.
My apologies. Let me walk that back. He's showed up for almost nothing.
Right. No, nothing he's shown up for nothing that's counted.
It is remarkable, though, that here the Jets are Jarrah has said they're all in. The Jets are all in.
Yes.
They're old. They're getting guys who have had injuries. And, from the 2 tackles to Williams, they are rolling the dice with some players that are brittle. Is that safe to say, David?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Hassan Reddick is supposed to be a key part of this, and now he doesn't want to play there. Some of this has to be on Douglas, though, to not get the contract, because when they traded for him, you would think the contract had to be close to done, or at least would assume. So what's happened between now and then?
You had to think that there was an understanding in place, though. The Jets don't Mark, they're giving up a 3rd-round pick for a guy entering the final year of his contract. Now, I know he's one of only 2 guys in the league who's had double-digit sacks, I think, each of the last 4 or 5 seasons. But, he's what, 30, 31?
30.
Yeah, if you're Joe Douglas, you ain't giving up a 3rd-round pick. Granted, it's 2 years down the road, unless you're pretty sure you've worked things out with Reddick and his agency that he's going to be more than a 1-year rental. You're going to sign him to some kind of extension. You got to figure that you're getting 3 years out of Hassan Reddick. It's not going to be cheap. He's supposed to make 14 and change this year. But yeah, this has gone south in a hurry. I mean, this is like a J-Lo marriage.
Oh boy.
I love J-Lo. She's my diva wide receiver. I don't know what to tell
Yeah,
you.
I'm aware.
It just, I mean,
Not just diva wide receivers anymore, though. Diva DNs,
yep,
diva D backs,
sure,
diva
yeah,
everything in the league.
yep, mhm.
That's what the league's become.
Yep. I usually just stick to the wide receivers, but I may have to branch out. In J-Lo's case, I definitely will, just for the record. Miller and Moulton. We have a great guest list, and we've got a really good show. Yeah, we don't have a poll question. That we will work on the other side, Miller and Moulton.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times, but Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever, are steadily adding affiliates, yet we only have a few sponsors. And if that doesn't change, we can't continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or contact Mark on X at that Mark Miller or me at the David Moulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now. You have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. The Floormeisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto, dinner, and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com, Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football.
This is Miller and Moulton.
All right, so what do we want for a poll question?
I don't know. Wait, I got a stat here.
It's National Filet Mignon Day. What's your favorite cut of steak? Filet, New York strip, ribeye.
I like it. Did you see Super 70 Sports today?
I did not.
They have a sleeve of orange top flights. And the quote is, "It's 1982, and I'm about to shoot a 63 on the front nine." Uh, yeah, the Marlins blew up a pretty good organization yesterday.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour on this Tuesday, a week away from the Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit. Go to millerandmoulton.com and sign up. Love to see you a week from tonight at Shoeless Joe's in Fort Myers, the Doubletree, Bell Tower Shops. 11 days away from Florida State and Georgia Tech. But I know for many of you that won't scratch the itch, so we're 18 days away from the first big Saturday of the college football season. And 3 weeks from Thursday, man, 23 days away, Ravens and Chiefs. We are doing this, the 2024 NFL season. By the way, right now, my $20. Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl?
God, it's so hard to bet against Mahomes. It is so difficult.
It's tough to make 3 straight Super Bowls.
No, I understand that. It's virtually impossible.
You know, I mean, think about it. The great Steelers dynasties, you know, they won 4 out of 6, but they didn't go to 3 in a row. The Dolphins did under Shula because they lost the first one and then won the next 2. You know, Lombardi retired after the Packers. Obviously, you know, the Bills went to 4 in a row. It's tough to make it that third time. Even Troy, Michael, and Emmett, you know, they won 3 out of 4, but they didn't go to 3 in a row.
I'll take Mahomes.
So right now, my $20, if you had to bet, you could have the rest of the AFC to get to the Super Bowl, or
the smart play is to take the field. I'm not smart. I'll take Reed, Mahomes, Kelsey.
By the way, I know we were talking about steak during the break as our poll question. All right. I mean, we got 23 days. We could throw the, 3 in a row Chiefs poll question out there. So, I mean, since today's a steak day or something?
National Filet Mignon Day, the most overrated cut of meat on the planet.
Ooh, look at you coming out off the top rope there.
It's not flavorful.
Huh.
It's a waste. To me, it's a waste of money. I'd rather have a ribeye.
I grew up pronouncing it filet mignon. I was very impressed with myself when I was like 7 or 8 years old that I knew how to pronounce filet. But I took a look at it. M-I-G-N-O-N. Oh, that's mignon. So, and my mother just let me. That's like, as parents, sometimes you just have to amuse yourself. You're like, I'm going to let the kid run with this one for a while.
Till he figures out he's wrong. And then he looks at me like, Mom, why didn't you help out?
Oh, that's when you play dumb as a parent. You go, oh, really? Huh. So what's our steak poll question?
It's National Filet Mignon Day. What's your favorite cut of meat? And I gave you 3 choices: a filet, a New York strip, and a ribeye.
Okay. I have to think about that.
I mean, there are others. Those are the big 3. I figured we go with that.
Gotcha.
It's up.
All right.
Miller_Moulton, that Mark Miller, soon to be with the David Moulton whenever he answers it and retweets it.
Right. I have to think about my answer first because I like to do it all at the same time. I retweet it, I answer it, that sort. I vote, etc. So, but that's interesting. That is interesting. If, just throwing it out there, 21,000 on the text line. You could have the Chiefs or the rest of the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. I'm not even saying win it, just to get to it. Who would you take right now? Gut feeling. I'd have to take the field. Have to.
That's the smart move. But if I were to narrow you down and say, which team are you taking?
Oh, no, then forget it. We'd all wrap ourselves up in a pretzel. So honestly, we couldn't answer it. I think people would have a hard time answering who's the team that's going to take the Chiefs down. But in the AFC, do you go Chiefs or Field? I mean, they've played in 6 consecutive AFC championship games. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, they figure to be in the title game again. So you're basically thinking, you're betting on, okay, who's going to beat the Chiefs in the AFC title game?
The Ravens? Well, we know what Lamar does in the postseason. The Dolphins? Do you really trust the Miami Dolphins or the Buffalo Bills to get it done in the postseason? The Jets, with a quarterback that's in his 40s, an offensive line that's pieced together, and a DN that doesn't want to play?
Plus, the other thing is that honestly, if you had to, once again, Miller and Moulton's $20. If we gave you $20 right now and said you can only pick one team to win their division, $20, who would it be? I think most everyone would bet the Chiefs.
Without a doubt, David.
So you're giving them, and then you figure, well, they're not going to be the 4 seed since they're going to dominate their division and they're really good. So now, like last year, I mean, the Chiefs last year were a 3 seed. Well, that's the worst seed they've been during this 6-year run. So I have to admit, I'm ready for somebody else.
Yeah, I like dynasties. I love this stuff. I like greatness.
Don't get me wrong.
I like watching the team go from cute, lovable, up and comer to I can't stand them. They win too much.
Well, I'm not there with the Chiefs in terms of I can't stand them. They win too much. All right. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind. Don't get me wrong. I'd be fine with them going back to the AFC title game. It's just that, this year I wouldn't mind somebody else.
Well, we all know who that is for you. Deep down, it's Cincinnati. Because they've got a Joe Burrow.
Listen, even though the new haircut's horrible, I do love me some Joe Burrow. I do. That's off the deep end, how much I love me some Joe Burrow. But they just suffered an injury to their offensive line. That's, once again, seems to be the problem area.
Lions suffered an injury yesterday, hamstring for Gibbs.
Uh-huh. Those linger.
Yes, they do.
Yep.
And he's a key part of that team, expected to be even a bigger part this year. But Mims, the lineman for Kansas City, strained a pec? I don't think he tore it. But it'll be several weeks, and they're worried about him being there for the opener.
The Lions also dipped deep, okay, and in terms of, paying for a backup quarterback. They signed Jake Fromm. Yeah.
What the hell?
Okay. Just apparently we're the only ones concerned. They're like, no, we got this. We're good. Really? Is there something in that depth chart we're missing? Oh, man. But so we'll probably in about 3 weeks, right before the opener. I think we'll give folks the chance of Chiefs or the field.
If we remember, which is
Well,
the key part about Miller and Moulton with the poll question. We've come up with a lot of poll questions over the years, and the next day are unable to remember what the poll question was that we had.
yeah,
So-
we're good at that. We are.
But our
But
poll question today is a very simple one. What's your favorite cut of meat? Ribeye, filet, New York strip. I know there's a lot of people that you are already texting in going, what about a porterhouse? You get the strip and the filet. I'm making you choose. It's that simple. You
he
can't
didn't
have
throw
both.
he didn't even throw in my favorite, prime rib.
Well, you got ribeye.
Yeah, it's true.
Prime rib's a roast. Prime rib is
And
not a steak.
I gotcha.
You can vote ribeye.
I
It's the
I
same.
think
It's the same piece of meat.
I know. I think I'll have to. So now this is the most hungry I'm going to be for a show in a long time. Talking steak in the second segment of the show. Wow, man, am I going to be starving by the end of this show?
Well, the good news is you can make it to the kitchen a couple of times between now and then.
No, the wife is all over me. You're eating too many starches. You got to add protein to your diet. I'm like, why start now? I mean, the die's been cast, honey. I mean, the lump of clay is what it is. I mean,
Getting yelled at for eating?
well, I'm eating the wrong thing, apparently.
What else is new?
So fortunately, I'm going to leave town in a couple of days and I can start eating whatever I want. The starting five is next. Thanks for listening, Miller and Moulton. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
Todd, have you noticed every jewelry store in town sounds like a broken record?
I do. We're all saying and claiming the same thing. Largest selection, lowest prices, non-commissioned sales team. It's the same tune over and over.
Exactly. It's just noise.
Jason and I aren't all talk. We walk the walk, brokering diamonds directly, giving you the best value on GIA certified diamonds.
That's right. We're not just selling jewelry. We're living and breathing it. It's our passion, and we're for real, not hired voices on the radio reading scripts.
Come explore our collection of GIA certified diamonds and diamond jewelry with our curated assortment of rare and exotic gemstones. Also, we're excited about our previously enjoyed Rolex timepieces, as well as our large estate jewelry collection.
Skip the noise and come feel the difference with your go-to guys for diamonds. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Ambient, let's see if the Texans can do one of the hardest things to do in sports, which is to not hiccup.
Say the same thing about the Lions.
Yep. Look what happened to Jacksonville last year. I mean, by the way, somebody asked the question. I'm off the top of my head. The last time I can remember an AFC title game that didn't involve the Patriots or the Chiefs was Steelers-Jets 2010 season.
That the Brady injury season?
No, Jets beat Brady and the Patriots in the division game. That was the Bart Scott talking to Sal Paolantonio on the field post-game. Well, I didn't know if that was the right answer, Spitz, but that's the last one I can remember.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes before the hour. An hour from now, we'll start talking to our guests that are lined up today. Antwan Staley, who covers the Jets and the NFL at large. He'll join us 1 hour from now about the Hassan Reddick mess. Kyle Soppe of Pro Football Network. He does a little betting, a little fantasy, a little NFL as a whole. Going to have a Pro Football Network guest every Wednesday throughout the season. A variety. They want to mix it up this year. Bunch of different guests. We're like, yeah, sure.
Whatever you want.
We'll promote you. Brad Gillie, PRN, SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Going to ask him the hard question. Would you take the win away? Hasn't been done in over 30 years in NASCAR. They black flagged Ricky Rudd back in 1991. He did a similar type move, although it wasn't as blatant, to be brutally honest. And they took the win away. When he crossed the finish line, they would not do it with the checkered flag. They did it with the black flag. And then when the guy he took out, who I think was Davey Allison, crossed the line, that's when they waved the checkered flag. And Chris Perkins covers the Dolphins. We'll talk about their injury situation, unfortunately. They've got more of them. Ha! And wouldn't you know, one of them's an offensive lineman. No kidding.
Shocking development.
21 minutes before the hour. Time for
The Starting Five. 5 big stories you need to know. Here is the Starting Five.
It's going to take me a while to not laugh. I'm sorry. This is like 1970, late 70s AM radio. It's the top 10 hits. Not going to go number 1. All right. But this is, and then it's going to be the soundtrack to Beretta. All right. I'm telling you, I love this new music.
For those of you that don't watch on YouTube or Twitch, and we recommend that you take us in any way that you'd like, but if you do want to watch, I'd recommend getting on just before the Starting Five starts because David dances every morning. He can't help himself.
No, I can't. All right. We talked about it. Hell, we previewed it yesterday. We said, get ready. Old time baseball. They hand the ball to the aces and they say, hey, go as deep as you can. Now, of course, in 2024, it's not as deep as they used to go, but still, it's deep enough. Get you fired up. Chris Sale went 7 innings, gave up 3 hits, struck out 12. You know how many runs he allowed? None. Blake Snell took a no-no into the 7th, gave up 2 hits, struck out 11. You know how many runs he allowed? None. Hell, if they didn't put that designated runner on second base, the 2 teams might still be playing for all we know. Do you like that? Has that grown on you at all?
All right. Here's a little truth. I don't watch enough baseball to see enough extra inning games where it affects me one way or another. Because there aren't that many extra inning games. And if you're not watching baseball on a nightly basis, you're not seeing this that often. It's a gimmick. Whatever. I'm indifferent about it, David. I'm really indifferent about it. And I know I'm supposed to have opinions on everything because I do a sports talk show.
So it sounds like it's
fine.
not growing on you.
No.
Okay.
It's Little League Baseball, for crying out loud.
Just asked.
It's not even Little League Baseball. It's Sandlot Baseball. Hey, let's start with a runner on second for the team. They've only got 2 batters. We've got 3, so we'll let them start with the runner on second. It's like, what the hell is this?
Listen, it's going to get dark in about 10 minutes. Let's end this. Okay, Charlie, go to second. We're going to start the inning with Charlie on second. You ready? Anyway, Travis d'Arnaud drove in Charlie with a sac fly in the top of the 10th. And the Braves won at 1-0. Big win for them. They're a game up on the Mets for the final playoff spot in the National League. Dodgers, Mookie Betts came back. Homer, 3 RBIs. Ohtani at his 36th dinger of the year as well. Dodgers beat the first-place Brewers 5-2. They remain 3.5 up on both the Padres and Diamondbacks because they both won. San Diego's won 8 of 9. They beat Pittsburgh 2-1. Arizona's won 8 of 9. They beat Colorado 5-4. Grady Sizemore got his first win as interim manager of the White Sox. Hey, would you have taken that gig? You've got no chance, apparently, to be the manager next year. A year ago, you were an intern for the Diamondbacks. All right. The bench coach who had previous managerial experience wouldn't take the job. Others on the staff wouldn't take the job. It's apparently why they got fired. So eventually they get to you. Would you do it for like 48 games?
I would. Because your expectations, David, are so low. This team it wins 1 of every 4 games at best, a little less than that.
Yep.
So if by some odd chance you can win 1 of every 3 games the rest of the way, you've proven to all of Major League Baseball you've created a significant improvement of a bad team, a bad situation, and you've made them better. And I don't think it leads him to a manager job next year, but it may lead him to a bench coach next year. And if he ends up wanting to be a manager, I think you have to take it.
Well, Grady Sizemore's 1-2 as manager of the White Sox. They bombed the Yankees yesterday, 12-2. That puts the Orioles back in first by half a game. Astros move into first in the West by half a game. They've won 6 in a row. They beat Tampa Bay 6-1. Seattle was idle. That's why the Astros are back in first. Guardians beat the Cubs. And I got to admit, Mark, last night's game was kind of like Game 7 of the World Series 8 years ago. Back and forth and pretty entertaining. A little less at stake. Guardians have won 3 in a row, 9-8 over the Cubs. Twins, 6-run second. They beat the Royals in the battle for second in the AL Central. 8-3 Minnesota. They're 3.5 back of the Guardians. The Royals fall 5 back. Our Reds, Mark, are getting tantalizingly close to 500.
Not really.
3 below. Spencer Steer with 2 homers and 5 RBIs. Ellie De La Cruz with another dinger. 6-1 Reds over the Cards. Toronto 4-2 over the Angels. Billy Wagner's kid. Apparently, Mark, if you're the offspring of a former major leaguer, you have to play for the Blue Jays. I mean, that's all they're doing. It seems like every kid of a former major leaguer of a really good one, ends up coming up through the Jays organization. In it, he got his first 3 hits. First game in the majors, he got 3 hits. So, and
That'll play. That's a good start.
And next year, his dad's going to get enough votes to go in the Hall of Fame. He was 5 short this year. Final year on the ballot. I say he gets in. And final baseball game, it was a rough day in Boston. A, they had lost 4 in a row. B, one of their really good young players was caught with a hot mic over the weekend of using a gay slur when yelling back at a fan. So the Red Sox suspended him for 2 games, Jaron Duran, that is. But then they blew a 3-1 lead, and then they were down 4-3 in the 10th, only to score 2 in the 10th and win it 5-4. College football AP Top 25 poll. It looks unbelievably like the coaches' Top 25 poll from a week ago. It's staggeringly similar. No difference at all, basically, between the coaches and the media. Georgia, number 1, 46 of the 62 first place votes. Ohio State, second. Oregon got 1 third place, or first place vote, I should say. They're third. Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, 4, 5, 6. It's the exact top 6 in the coaches poll. Notre Dame, 7th. The reason I say that is, Mark, that apparently in like the last 25 years, on all but 2 occasions, the national champion was ranked preseason top 7. Florida State with Jameis was ranked preseason 11. Auburn with Cam Newton was preseason 22. That's my one claim to fame year. I was all over Auburn in 2010. So if history holds, Mark, the national champion will be either Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, or Notre Dame. Florida State 10th, just as they were in the coaches poll. Miami 19th, just as they were in the coaches poll. Now, you want to challenge yourself today? How about this little nugget? In 28 of the last 30 years, a team that is not ranked will finish in the top 10 at the end of the year. That team last year was Missouri, unranked at the beginning of the year, won 10 games, beat Ohio State in a bowl game, finished number 8. So just for your own amusement, take a look at all the teams not ranked and go, which one's going to finish pre or postseason top 10? 28 of the last 30 years, it's happened. And Mark, the conference breakdown's exactly the same in terms of how many teams are in. 9 SEC, 6 Big Ten, 5 Big 12, 4 ACC. It's almost as if the same teams, Mark, are ranked in both polls.
Well, there's a lot of thought put into it, David.
Yeah.
They work very hard to differentiate themselves, have a little individuality.
Yeah. There's no groupthink involved here at
No.
all. No. NFL news, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Lions, a hamstring injury, maybe more than that. Pay attention today. Lions also, with the Hendon Hooker concussion, signed quarterback Jake Fromm to the roster. Speaking of quarterbacks, Vikings J.J. McCarthy missed practice yesterday. He got banged up in that preseason game with a knee injury. It's not serious, but he might miss another day or so. 49ers, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, one last push to sign wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, or else they're going to trade him to the Steelers. Apparently, the Niners have asked straight up Ayuk for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Would you do that deal?
Ooh.
Minkah's approaching 30 now, isn't he?
Yeah,
Just wondering. I mean, obviously, very good player.
I wouldn't get rid of Ayuk if I was the 49ers. I would sign him.
I understand, but if he won't sign, you're the Niners, and you decide, wow, okay, we've tried everything. He's not staying. All right.
That's an interesting trade.
Would you take the picks, or would you just go straight? Apparently, they have said, we'll just do it straight up. Minkah for Ayuk. No picks.
I don't know if I'd do it if I'm the Steelers.
Okay.
I would if I was the Niners, if I'm left desperate and can't get rid of or can't sign Ayuk.
Well, it's the Niners making the proposal. No indication that the Steelers are biting. Jets Hassan Reddick demands a trade. He's never even practiced with the Jets. So he demanded a trade from the Eagles back in February. So they traded him to the Jets. He showed up for the presser and everything, even though he only had 1 year left on his contract. But somewhere between the presser and showing up for minicamp, he decided this ain't going to work. So Reddick demanded a trade. Jets immediately released a statement saying, yeah, that ain't happening. Get your butt into camp. And the fines will continue. And finally, USA Gymnastics submitted additional evidence proving their case that Jordan Child's appeal was filed within the 1 minute time frame that you need to file the appeal. But the CAS, Court of Arbitration for Sport, continues to insist that A, you didn't file it within the minute, you took 64 seconds, and B, there is no further appeal process. You're screwed. Give the bronze medal back. The United States has said, we will appeal this as high as we can go.
Where can they go?
Well,
They gone as high as they can go?
Well, they could, I guess, go to the IOC. All right, there is. I mean, anyway, they said there's other. What I think they're trying to do is that if they drag this out long enough, maybe they just send the Romanian gymnast a bronze medal and they let them both have a bronze, which has happened before.
Which is what they should do.
Yes, because this is because the other thing that the CAS has not said is they're not saying that when they corrected Jordan Child's score that it's incorrect. No. She should be the bronze medalist. But because we filed our appeal 4 seconds late, which we're like, we've got timestamp video evidence that you're wrong. Sorry, we're not accepting it. What do you mean you're not accepting it? Don't know what to tell you. We're not accepting it.
We've made our decision. It is final.
And at 7 minutes before the hour, that was the starting five.
Ah, there he goes.
I'm getting with the program.
There he goes.
It's, you know me, it's slow. It's
I
slow.
just thought you wanted to hear the music again, David. That's
well, listen. Now, if you're going to start playing that music in reverse, I'm all in. I'm like that ship, Mark. I do turn just really slowly. I'm like a battleship. I am big and slow.
great show lined up for you today. We'll talk some Jets. Next hour, we'll talk some fantasy and gambling in the 8 o'clock hour, along with NASCAR and Chris Perkins to talk the Dolphins at 9 o'clock. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
Todd, have you noticed every jewelry store in town sounds like a broken record?
I do. We're all saying and claiming the same thing. Largest selection, lowest prices, non-commissioned sales team. It's the same tune over and over.
Exactly. It's just noise.
Jason and I aren't all talk. We walk the walk, brokering diamonds directly, giving you the best value on GIA certified diamonds.
That's right. We're not just selling jewelry. We're living and breathing it. It's our passion, and we're for real, not hired voices on the radio reading scripts.
Come explore our collection of GIA certified diamonds and diamond jewelry with our curated assortment of rare and exotic gemstones. Also, we're excited about our previously enjoyed Rolex timepieces, as well as our large estate jewelry collection.
Skip the noise and come feel the difference with your go-to guys for diamonds. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real. The Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th at 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com, Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football.
This is Miller and Moulton.
All right, Twitch chat. It's a quick yes, no. Does David come back with food? Losers. None. Look at that.
Oh, I wish Tuna Mac. Golly.
The yeses are you started coming back. I said, is David coming back with food?
No, you all lost.
You're getting spied on. That's why. He went in and checked. She was looking.
She's out there. Nope. She's sitting in the living room. Oh yeah. Yep.
That is full R&D right there. Went and thought I maybe could grab something, sneak it in here pretty quickly. Nope.
I walked out there. She wasn't there. I'm walking into the kitchen. I'm 2 seconds away from grabbing some peanut butter crackers. She comes walking out of her mom's room. Hey, good morning. How you doing? Good. How are you? 2 seconds. I would have had them in my pocket. Golly. It's on me. I didn't move fast enough. I sat here for like a minute and a half. It's actually, she's really struggling. Thank you for asking, but she's really struggling. her knees bending at like 75 degrees when I guess it should be like 120 by now. She's, oh man.
$20 seconds.
Hey.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? On this Tuesday, where we're a week away from the Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit. Go to millerandmoulton.com and sign up. Can't wait to see you there. A week from tonight, Shoeless Joe's in the Doubletree, Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. 11 days away from Florida State, Georgia Tech. 18 days away from that first big Saturday of the college football season. And 3 weeks Thursday. 23 days away, Ravens and Chiefs. Antwan Staley in a little over a half an hour. We've got 4 guests in a row. Terrific show lined up for you. But the AP Top 25, Mark, was released yesterday. Can I just kind of dig and peel the onion back a little bit?
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's go.
So
let's get into it.
There are 12 teams who play at least 3 consecutive games against teams that are preseason. Obviously, this could change, and, they get it wrong all the time. Oh, I can't believe so-and-so was preseason 8, and they finished 7-5. We all know this happens. But this is the proverbial on paper before injuries and everything happen. 12 teams play at least 3 consecutive games against teams that are ranked. Led by the Gators' daunting 5-game finish. Nobody plays more consecutive games against teams ranked in the top 25 than the Gators. Starting with the cocktail party. And then the rest of the month. Boom, 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 boom. 5 in a row. Now, Houston, Michigan State, South Carolina actually play 4 ranked teams in a row. That's the other thing. Beamer, they say his job is shaky in South Carolina. Well, this is kind of like Billy Napier, Mark. This is not the schedule. Take a look at South Carolina's schedule. It is not fun this year. For a 6-6, 7-5 type program, they did not get a good draw this year for their schedule. To me, it's like with Billy Napier. I'm sorry. With this schedule, your job's on the line, well, then fire him now.
Right. They have a run of Ole Miss, at Alabama, at Oklahoma, bye week, A&M. That doesn't include games against LSU, Missouri, and Clemson.
Right. Uh-huh.
I mean, South Carolina's looking at the Gators and saying, I know it's tough, but this is no picnic either.
There are 8 schools who have a 3-game stretch in a row. Boom, boom, boom. 8 schools who play 3 ranked teams in a row. Some of the names here may surprise you. And we'll go alphabetically. One of those 3 is Alabama. When's the last time you can recall Alabama having to play 3 ranked teams in a row? Now, obviously, when they get into SEC play, but usually they may have a tough game, and then it's Arkansas. And then, a tough game in Mississippi State. At the end of the year, you go, hey, they played 5 ranked teams, but they usually don't play them boom, boom, boom.
They get a bye before the LSU game, I will say. It's 3 and 4 weeks.
Okay. So Alabama's got 3 in a row where they play teams that are ranked. So does Arkansas. So does Auburn. So does Minnesota. Mississippi State has not 1 but 2 stretches of 3 games in a row against ranked teams. Congratulations, Bulldogs. Oklahoma has a stretch of 3 ranked teams in a row. So does UCLA, who's going to be bad this year. In fact, Mark, I'll go out on a limb. UCLA finishes last in the Big Ten.
Really?
Yeah. I even think, and I know Sparty's supposed to be bad. I know Purdue is. I think UCLA is going to be really bad. Really
so you're thinking
bad.
an under on UCLA.
Really bad. And Wisconsin, which is, and this is an interesting year for Luke Fickell. It didn't work last year. You're trying to change the formula that they've used to be Wisconsin for 30 years. The schedule's not friendly this year. So a little bit of heat in Wisconsin. So I just wanted to, throw that out there.
For the record, David, you're on to something, and Vegas is with you when it comes to UCLA because their over-under is set at 4.5.
And I'm going under. And I'm not kidding. I'm going under. I might go under at 3.5. In fact, I would. I think a 10-loss season is possible for UCLA. I think the program absolutely craters this year. And they have a very, very big decision to make about life and the pursuit of happiness after this year. I don't think it's going to work for UCLA going to the Big Ten. I really don't. I don't think that there's the financial commitment. I just don't think it's going to work. I think it could work for USC because of football. And they'll be surprisingly good in basketball. I mean, Andy Enfield had the recruiting pipeline going, and Eric Musselman will be fine. Number of ranked teams on the schedule, Mark. Now, this is just Power 4 schools. So this doesn't include South Florida or Liberty or, well, of course, Liberty wouldn't play a ranked team unless it was ordered by court. But the Gators play the most ranked teams right now. 8 on their schedule. 8. Okay, 2 schools play 7. South Carolina and Arkansas. Now, so the schools that play 7 or 8 ranked teams are all in the SEC. Well, the SEC's got 9 teams that are ranked. So part of that is just the bad draw of the schedule. Plus also in Florida's case, they scheduled Florida State and Miami non-conference, and they're both ranked. South Carolina's got Clemson non-conference. But can I go the other end of the spectrum?
The easy schedules?
Yeah.
We're going to get something out because we've got a couple of texts. David Sampson back next week. He's on vacation. He's normally in this slot.
Right.
David's on vacation. But people texting, wanting to know. We probably should open the segment up saying that. Just quick little maintenance here. He'll be back next week.
Right. Sorry about that. He couldn't do it. He did it 4 a.m. from Portland last week. Couldn't do it this week. So, Mark, there are 7 Power 4 programs that only play 1 ranked team. 7. Including Iowa.
That's where I was going. That's why we picked Iowa over their number a while back.
Including Miami.
That's why I came back from vacation very high on the Canes, David.
Rutgers, Cincinnati, Kansas, SMU. They host the Noles.
That's their Super Bowl, by the way. That is a big game for SMU.
And
one of the sneakiest games on the college football schedule this year, by the way.
Because also, isn't that game the week before Florida State plays Clemson? I think the Noles host Clemson the very next week. So it could be a trap game for Florida State.
Exactly right, David.
So Iowa, Miami, these are ranked teams who only are playing one other ranked team. Rutgers, Cincinnati, Kansas, which is in the top 25, SMU, and Pitt. So on paper, those are the easy schedules. Now, let's go to teams who only play two, like Penn State, like UCF, like Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, who's picked what, top 3 in the Big 12?
Yes, they are, along with Kansas and Utah.
Right. Arizona, Virginia Tech. Arizona's picked top 4, top 5 in a lot of Big 12 polling.
That's why that Virginia Tech Canes game will be very big in the ACC, the same way the SMU Florida State game is sneaky good in the ACC.
Now, bad teams, BC, Virginia. North Carolina, by the way, only plays 2 ranked teams. Stanford only plays 2. Indiana only plays 2. Oregon only plays 2. So of the big boys, Mark, is there a big boy who only plays 1? Well, Iowa, Miami. Iowa's at Ohio State. Miami hosts Florida State. It's the only ranked team on their schedule right now. But Penn State and Oregon only have 2 ranked games on their schedule.
Safe to say that if those 2 schools don't make the playoff, it's an utter disappointment. Based on their schedule, what's expected of them heading into the year, it is really a playoff or bust year for both the Nittany Lions and Oregon.
Of ranked teams, Notre Dame, Florida State, Clemson all play 3 ranked opponents. Missouri, by the way, it's another reason why Missouri, who's 10th, 11th, 12th in a lot of preseason polling, Missouri only plays 3 ranked teams. You compare SEC schedules, look at Missouri's compared to like South Carolina or Florida.
Or Oklahoma. Oklahoma's got a really difficult schedule as well.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Mark, because Oklahoma plays 6 ranked teams.
And I don't believe any of the ranked teams they play are outside of the SEC, if you know what I mean.
Oklahoma and Mississippi State both play 6 ranked teams. So Florida plays 8. South Carolina and Arkansas play 7. Mississippi State and Oklahoma play 6. Auburn, Georgia, Vandy, Bama, notice the coincidence, all in the SEC, all play 5. Now there's a bunch of LSU plays 5. Oh, yeah, UCLA plays 5 ranked teams. So does Wisconsin. Just saying. Texas plays 4. USC plays 4. Ohio State plays 4. So there you go. Just to give you an idea. On paper, before any injuries, Mark, that's how it looks in college football. Phil Steele on the show at 8 o'clock tomorrow to talk heavy college football here on Miller and Moulton.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Core-Tech, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Floormeister's Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com, Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Steve, I appreciate how much you like David Sampson, but to run a best of segment in the middle of our show doesn't make a lot of sense because it would be dated. And I think we can get through one segment without David Sampson.
I don't know who this guy is. He goes, you're getting old when radio stations and bars play music you don't like, but the supermarket's throwing out banger after banger. uh,
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Go to that, Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X. Vote in our poll question. It's National Filet Mignon Day. So what is your favorite cut of meat? Filet, New York strip, or ribeye? Those are your choices. Yeah, I know. You'll be like, well, what about this one? Make a choice. Come on now. It's not that hard. Besides, it's good meat after good meat after good meat. So, vote accordingly. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X. Go to millerandmoulton.com. Sign up for the Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit. It's a week from tonight with Dr. Roto, complete with cheat sheet. Yeah. Take that with you to your fantasy draft. Okay. Some guy shows up with his laptop. You go, ha, I got a cheat sheet, buddy. Feeling it. I got a good night's sleep. I don't know what to tell you. I'm very dangerous today. I'm not going to need a nap today. It's very dangerous is what you're doing the show with today, Mark. Just letting you know.
And we're talking meat throughout.
Right. You come up with a meat poll question.
And David's wife is guarding the kitchen, telling him he's not eating properly. He went for a snack, top of the hour break, and was denied.
I thought I timed it perfectly. Her mother has to take her medicine at a certain time. I waited. I thought perfectly. I'd go out, grab the snack, come back in the room. She wouldn't see me. 2 seconds away from freedom.
Texter sent in this question to us, or comment, if you will, a question and a comment. Don't we do this every year? Preseason polls loaded with SEC schools, so it's always the most ranked opponents, and then they don't turn out to be as difficult as we thought. And I see where you're going with that, but with the addition of Oklahoma and Texas, it does make the SEC that much stronger. And we have high expectations, and this is where he could be right. The Missouris, the Ole Miss, what will they end up doing this year? Because there are much higher expectations, particularly on those two schools, than we normally have.
Well, there you go. Like, if we were to list the 9 SEC schools, raise your hand at the one that you think's a fraud. Like Texas A&M's 20. I could see a lot of people going, yeah, I ain't buying the Aggies. Sorry. They always underperform. Okay. The whole blue chip ratio, they're like the 6th most talented program in the country, but I hear you. They go 7-5 with the best of them. I mean, did they take the place of Clemson? Remember, for the longest time, you were Clemsoning?
Ooh. Are the Aggies the new Clemsoning?
Are they Texas A&Ming?
I think you're on to something.
Johnny Manziel was 2012, 2013. They've had one really good team out of the 10 since. They had the team that lost one game with Kellen Mond there. They went 11-1. Their only loss was at Alabama. They finished like 5th in the country. One of the last 10 years, they've had, I think, a 10-plus win team. And think about how many times they've been picked where they've been picked.
And the voters have banished them to the bottom of the top 25, if you will.
Right.
Because they had kind of worked their way up to being a perennial top 12, 13 team every year, cracked the top 10 occasionally.
By the way, Texas is down to 3 scholarship running backs. Their top 2 running backs have both blown out their knee and they're out for the year. I know, but it's mid-August. They're down to 3 scholarship running backs.
I think their over-under's 10.5, David.
apparently they're taking a wide receiver and saying, yeah, you played running back in high school. You got to play running back again. There's talk apparently they're going to move a linebacker into the offensive backfield. I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, they're preseason top 5 everywhere. They have 3 scholarship running backs on the team right now. So, sometimes it's one of those years. Things happen. Now, they got a NFL quarterback and wide receivers and what have you, and then maybe they throw the ball a little more this year.
But Oklahoma and Georgia back-to-back for the Longhorns, at Michigan, at A&M. And their over-under's 10.5.
Well, I'll say it again. I will back up the truck on A&M against Texas.
If that's the case, then bet the under. Because they're not beating Georgia and Oklahoma in back-to-back weeks. It's not happening.
I agree. Hell, I don't know that they're going to win at Michigan in September.
Because Michigan circled that game, by the way. That's a big deal for Michigan. They feel, with everything that's going on, it's the lowest. I think it's the lowest preseason rankings for a defending national champ since Auburn.
When Auburn won in 2010, but it was a senior-dominated team, and Cam, obviously, and he went into the NFL. Because what's Michigan, 8-9 in
right.
these polls? Yeah. By the way, this is also the lowest Alabama's been ranked in the preseason since 2009.
And where are they ranked?
They're 5th.
Okay.
I get a kick out of some of this stuff, but Nick hadn't won anything yet, Mark. In 2009, they had lost the SEC title game to Tebow in Florida the year before. They got whacked by Utah in the Sugar Bowl. So, Nick hadn't done anything yet. They were preseason 5 heading into 2009. They won the Natty that year.
And that's the lowest they've been ranked since.
Yeah. 16 years in a row, they've been ranked in the top 5. Correct. Yep. Now, they haven't finished in the top 5 16 years in a row.
No, I got you.
Mm-hmm. But they have won 10 or more games, I think 17 years in a row.
Do they win 10 this year?
Are we counting the bowl?
No.
Then I say no. See, I think Alabama is more likely to go 9-3 than 11-1. I think Alabama's a little overrated. I think Ole Miss is slightly overrated because Ole Miss' schedule is not as favorable as it was the past 2 years.
Where is Alabama vulnerable then?
Well, I mean, I'm one of the 3 people who believes this, but I'm not a Milroe guy. Now, I think, DeBoer has to make him better than what he has been. He was bad against Michigan, and you could say, well, that was a very good defense. I'll grant you that. Listen, he wasn't that good against Auburn. He wasn't. The last pass, that's it. If that completion doesn't happen, people are saying, wow, Jalen Milroe's really hurting Alabama. He's inconsistent. He's a great runner, breaks down defenses. He's got a big arm, but I don't think he's a finished product yet. Now, this coach is a bit of a quarterback whisperer.
Correct. I mean, yeah, we all know what he did with Penix.
Right. And he's lost like 12 games in 9 years as a coach. So, Milroe may win the Heisman for all I know. But I don't know. I think he's still inconsistent, and that a few highlight reel plays has made everybody think he's better than he is.
And you're right. I mean, when you can run like that and the highlight reels that come from that, he can assassinate a defense all by himself.
He's a problem. He is. But listen, I think one of the sleeper September games is Alabama at Wisconsin. I really do.
Love that it's at Wisconsin.
Yes.
Camp Randall's going to be jumping. literally, for that game.
Yes, they will. Well, I see what you did there. Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. So, Miller and Moulton. Got a great show lined up for you. Kyle Soppe of Pro Football Network will join us at the top of the hour. Brad Gillie, 1 hour from now. I think NASCAR today is going to take the win away. Mark says I'm nuts.
It's the 3 car. They're not taking the win away.
Talk to Brad Gillie, see what he thinks. Chris Perkins, talk some Dolphins in the bonus hour. But Antwan Staley, is this Hassan Reddick Jets thing going to get resolved?
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh no!
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks lie peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
The Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com. Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock. The Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Hey, David.
Mm-hmm.
What's the frequency in Naples? Is it 104.3?
That's what I have it at. At 104.3, 98.1, and AM 770.
MillerandMoulton.com. DC, I mean, that's not changed.
Antwan's the barbecue guy, right? What are you doing barbecue?
I think. Voicemail.
Okay.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
At 22 minutes before the hour, thanks so much for being with us. National Filet Mignon Day. What's your favorite cut of meat? Make sure you go vote in our poll question. For that matter, a week from tonight's the Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit. Make sure you sign up at millerandmoulton.com. millerandmoulton.com. Antwan Staley, kind enough to join us once again. He covers the Jets and the NFL for a living for the New York Daily News, nydailynews.com. Follow Antwan on X at Antwan Staley. Antwan, it's David and Mark once again. Thanks for doing this. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing all right. By the way, over the years, because you're a North Carolinian, what do you do for barbecue now? I mean, 15 years you've been covering the Jets. I mean, do you go home, get it, and ship it? Where do you go?
Well, I hadn't been covering the Jets that long, but NFL in general, but nothing. Up here, this is only my third season going and covering the Jets, but in terms of barbecue, I don't do anything.
just
I usually just wait till I go back, down south, basically.
Fair enough. Who's going to wait this out more, Reddick or Douglas? It looks like Douglas has dug his feet in, said we're not going to trade him. Who do you see budging first?
Usually when you say you're not trading somebody, I actually think like 8 or 9 times out of 10 you end up moving on from them. I mean, that's usually just what happens. But I think it's just a mess on both sides, really. I mean, the Jets, from their perspective, they tried to offer him, a new deal, and he didn't want to take it before the trade was made, and they still made the trade anyway. I'm not exactly sure why, and especially knowing what, with the Eagles, that he wanted a new deal, and of course, that's why he requested to be traded in the first place. And then, of course, on Reddick's side, I think he's just getting some bad advice, and he could have just showed up to camp and held in, and maybe the Jets would have gave him some incentives there. But, either way, it's just a bad look for both sides. I don't know what's going to happen. It looks like the Jets don't necessarily know when or if he's ever going to report, and it's just a big mess. It really is.
Well, and how much do they need him? Because I think it's a decent amount because they lost their edge rusher from that side of the defense. They need his 10 sacks, don't they?
I mean, they lost a couple. Well, they lost a couple actually. I mean, yeah, I think they really do need him. I mean, considering the fact that Bryce Huff ended up leaving to go to Philly, crazy enough, and then they ended up trading John Franklin Myers because of Reddit, because they really couldn't afford to have both of them. In addition to that, Quentin Jefferson's a guy that ended up having 6 sacks for the Jets last year and was very versatile on the defensive line, and now he's playing in Cleveland. So essentially, you're missing 19 and a half sacks from a year ago. And of course, you expect Reddit to make up for that, especially considering he's had 4 double-digit sack seasons. And yeah, you definitely got it. You definitely need him. Otherwise, then now you're relying on Will McDonald, who's a first-round pick in 2023, but has not necessarily shown that consistency, to possibly be that guy moving forward.
The defense was elite last year. Is it elite right now?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I mean, especially with no Reddit there, I think they have a lot of questions, and not for nothing. I mean, their defensive line and defense last year ended up giving up the 25th most rushing yards in the NFL. I mean, they're one of the worst rushing defenses in the league. So, yeah, it's definitely still a lot of questions there. I don't know if we're necessarily going to have any answers until we get to the regular season. But they got a big test week 1 against San Francisco on the road. So we're going to find out real quick if this defense can be elite once again, like it has been the last couple of years.
Antwan Staley covering the NFL and the Jets for the New York Daily News. Follow him on X at Antwan Staley. Antwan Staley. Listen, I'm pretty hard on Joe Douglas for what it's worth. Like, if you're going to trade a future third for Reddick and have to deal with a contract, well, he's making 14. He's not going to take a cut in future years. Why didn't you just re-sign the 6-year younger Bryce Huff, who only got 17, if you know what I mean, for the Eagles? I mean, it sounds like for what they'll probably end up paying Reddick, they could have kept the guy 6 years younger.
Well, I think part of it is because they're going for this year. It's 2024. And I think, just from my understanding, I think they just want to see how this year goes, and they don't want to necessarily get into long-term commitments because, I mean, if the Jets don't make the playoffs, let's say, and then you may end up having to replace a new coach, a new general manager, and then you don't necessarily want to have a lot of, long-term contracts in the process too, especially considering you have to pay Sauce Gardner coming up. He'll be eligible for an extension after the 2024 season. Garrett Wilson, possibly Jermaine Johnson, and Breece Hall. I mean, and Michael Carter II, one of the best slot corners in football, will also be a free agent along with DJ Reed. So they got a lot of tough decisions moving forward. And if they don't make the playoffs, I expect it to be wholesale changes. And then I think that's kind of the reason why they didn't really want to sign Bryce Huff, a situational pass rusher, and also the fact that they took Will McDonald in the first round in 2023. So eventually you want to see what he can potentially do alongside Jermaine Johnson.
All right, all focus on this team that was on the other side of the ball as Aaron Rodgers comes back looking at the offense. How have things looked in camp? I mean, they're old at tackle. They got Williams, who's injured all the time. Obviously, Rodgers last year hurt. But when you look at the offense, do you see a cohesive unit so far, or do you see a work in progress?
I still think it's a work in progress. I mean, you got to get some continuity on the offensive line. I'm sure they will. Tyron Smith is, like you said, is older, along with Morgan Moses. They did draft Olu Fashanu for Penn State, who's, I think, their tackle of the future. So I definitely think Joe Douglas had the foresight to do that. So I think it was very smart. In terms of Aaron, I mean, we're going to have to see what he looks like in the joint practices. Did not practice against the Commanders last week in the joint practice. Expected to against the Panthers later this week in Charlotte, and then they got the Giants coming up too. So I don't know if he'll play in the preseason game against the Giants, but those are 2 opportunities for him to kind of showcase what he can do. Because otherwise, the offense has been, up and down, but the Jets defense is also really, really good. So you don't know which one it is. This is going to be a work in progress, or is it going to be, is the defense is, really good and the offense is going to be better once they play other teams. But yeah, I think Aaron will be fine. I just think that, they're going to have to get in some continuity on that offensive side of the football, especially with him basically not playing at all last year.
If Aaron is like you said, he will be fine. Is that top 8 in the league, if you know what I mean? I mean, does he have to be MVP, Rodgers, or can he be? Is it okay if he's just the? I mean, what if he's the third best quarterback in the division, Antwan?
Well, I think if he is, then you better hope the defense is as good as it's been the last couple of years, because you can win like that, you can get to the playoffs like that, but if the defense takes a step back, which it might, considering the Reddit situation and defensive line, yeah, they definitely going to need him to be as close to MVP level as possible. But we don't know what he is, because at this point, last time we really saw him was in 2022, and then a lot of people thought that was a bit of a subpar year for him, and the Packers ended up missing the playoffs and doing a abundance of interceptions. But I also know he was dealing with some minor injuries and stuff like that too. But typically, as you get older, it's hard to maintain that same level unless you're Tom Brady, and not everybody's Tom Brady. I mean, he's 101, so I don't know what he's going to be, but I definitely think they need him. If the defense takes a step back, they definitely need him to be as close to MVP form as possible.
When I look at this division, I'm trying to figure out who the toughest team is, and I don't know if that matters anymore, Antwan, but to me it does. Do you think the Jets when it comes down to it, can get it done in December? When the last 5 for them really difficult to finish the season, are they a tough enough team to get to the end?
I don't know. I think the last 7 is going to be really tough. I mean, you look at the last 7 games, even before the bye week where they got the Colts, they play all teams. They play 7 teams that all finished over 500 last year, including, obviously, they got Buffalo right after Christmas, and then they end the season hosting Miami. I think, you're looking at the toughest team. You definitely have to look at the Bills right now, and I know the Bills have had a lot of changes around Josh Allen, but I still think he's the best quarterback in the division, and I think they still have the best coach in the division, and they should prove it otherwise in Sean McDermott. The Jets, we don't know. It's just a lot of unknowns there, and then now you have to rely on a lot of people to stay healthy when sometimes they're not able to do that, especially when they have an extensive injury history. But we're going to learn about this team really, really quick, I think, especially considering all the primetime games that they have early in the year, and then, just kind of the rough schedule that they have throughout the middle and then towards the end, especially when you're playing Buffalo and Miami back-to-back to end the season. Unlike getting the Patriots, the NFL schedule makers definitely did them no favors.
Antwan Staley covers the NFL and the Jets for the New York Daily News. Follow Antwan on X at Antwan Staley. Antwan, thanks for making time for us. Safe travels. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Antwan Staley, New York Daily News, nydailynews.com. If you want to follow the Jets, I'll say it again after the Monday night opener, and who knows, maybe they go into Frisco the way the Lions went into KC last year and, get a win that no one's expecting. Mark, after that, it's Titans, Patriots, Broncos, Vikings. Titans are on the road. They start with 2 in a row on the road. Patriots and Broncos are home. They play the Vikings in London. I mean, come on right now. Anything short of 4-1 has got to be a disappointment.
Huge disappointment, because after that little stretch, they play a 4-game set after that, David, where they play at a home at Buffalo on a Monday night, and then follow that up at Pittsburgh. 2 really physical games back to back, at New England and home for Houston. So I'm with you. They've got to get off to a good start, and we just described their last 7 games, all against teams with a winning record from a year ago.
Antwan mentioned prime time, for whatever that's worth. I think it means more to the fans in terms of, wait, we're stuck watching this team again? But Monday Night Football week 1, Amazon week 3, a London game week 5. So that'll be one of those, NFL Network, 9:30 a.m. if you're interested. Then Monday night week 6, Sunday night week 7, Thursday night week 9, Sunday night week 11. Now, NBC can get out of that Sunday nighter, which is Jets Colts right now. But, I mean, basically every other week for the first half to 60% of the season, the Jets are going to be in a primetime game. Now,
And as long as Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, that primetime schedule will work out well for all of the networks. No matter where they are. Really and truly, David, if they're mediocre, I still think it's a must-watch to see what goes on with this team and Aaron Rodgers. But I worry, we talked about the tackles. Williams hasn't played a full season in forever.
The wide receiver.
Yes.
Mike Williams, yes. And he's still on the PUP list, isn't he? Is he healthy?
I thought he came off.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No. I thought.
But I don't know if he'll, start the season healthy. He'd be a nice addition, though. I mean, that's the best number 2 receiver they've had in a while.
Absolutely. But you're relying on guys who consistently are injured to stay healthy.
Right.
Several of them.
Right. The 2 old tackles, old quarterback, old number 2 receiver. Yeah. Yeah. Tough to rely on that.
It really
because
is.
of it, their average age mark, they're one of the, quote, older teams.
And I thought Antwan did a good job of talking about the changes on that defense, which was very good last year, although he did point out susceptible against the run.
I thought they got worn out late in the season physically. Also, teams just said, why do we have to throw the ball? Why throw it against that secondary when their offense sucks and they're not going to score any points? So I think teams also ran the ball against the Jets more than they normally did, and I thought they wore the Jets out.
Which shouldn't be the case this year.
No.
Because the offense should score more points. They only allowed, they were one of the best teams from a points against in the league last year.
They allowed less than 300 yards a game, too. I think they allowed 292. You could run the ball on them, but you couldn't throw on them. And once they got you to third down, they got pressure on quarterbacks. The Jets have finished, Mark, horribly under Robert Saleh. Horribly. They've been a terrible December team under Saleh.
It's all on the line for him this year.
Yes.
I don't just mean for his job. Yeah, he could get another job, but he'll have to take a step back if this doesn't work out this year.
Well, listen, it's remarkable you have 4 consecutive losing seasons and get a 5th. It is. So, same with the GM. That's why Antwan's right. They don't go to the playoffs this year, and they have the longest playoff drought in the league. They don't go to the playoffs this year. Everybody getting fired. Miller and Moulton. We'll talk more NFL. Kyle Soppe of Pro Football Network coming up on the other side. Thanks for being with us. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and CoreTech, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
We started our show 18 years ago and have been fired 3 times. But Miller and Moulton have never lived on the edge like we are now. We have our best morning ratings ever and are steadily adding affiliates. Yet, we only have a few sponsors, and if that doesn't change, we cannot continue. But if you want to advertise on Miller and Moulton, reach out to one of us directly by texting sponsor to 21,000 or by contacting me on X at @MarkMiller or David at @TheDavidMoulton. You can save Miller and Moulton and make your business some serious money by texting 21,000 now. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Four-Meisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com, Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
Todd, have you noticed every jewelry store in town sounds like a broken record?
I do. We're all saying and claiming the same thing. Largest selection, lowest prices, non-commissioned sales team. It's the same tune over and over.
Exactly. It's just noise.
Jason and I aren't all talk. We walk the walk, brokering diamonds directly, giving you the best value on GIA certified diamonds.
That's right. We're not just selling jewelry. We're living and breathing it. It's our passion, and we're for real, not hired voices on the radio reading scripts.
Come explore our collection of GIA certified diamonds and diamond jewelry with our curated assortment of rare and exotic gemstones. Also, we're excited about our previously enjoyed Rolex timepieces, as well as our large estate jewelry collection.
Skip the noise and come feel the difference with your go-to guys for diamonds. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
This is Miller and Moulton.
All set.
Feeney, it is something that, Rodgers went to the Jets just like Favre did. I mean, amazing how that worked out also.
And both got hurt with the Jets.
Yeah, Favre at least was 8-3 till he got hurt, but yes. It is amazing they made it to back-to-back AFC title games with Mark Sanchez.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Dr. Roto on the show Thursday. Remember, a week from tonight, the Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit with Dr. Roto. Sign up, millerandmoulton.com, millerandmoulton.com. Make sure you vote in our poll question. It's National Filet Mignon Day. What's your favorite cut of meat? Filet, strip, ribeye. Go vote. That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X. The folks at Pro Football Network, they're giving us everybody this year. They want to give us their whole roster. And we said, absolutely, we will take it. So we welcome for the first time Kyle Soppe. He does fantasy and betting predominantly for Pro Football Network, profootballnetwork.com. Follow Kyle on X, Kyle Soppe, Soppe, PFN. Kyle Soppe, PFN. Kyle, it's David and Mark. Thanks for doing this. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's football season. It's football in the air. You got a little bit of bite in the air in the morning when you wake up. What's not to like?
You may have bite where you are. The only thing I'm bitten by in the morning is a gasp of humidity in South Florida. So to each his own. We'll cool off sometime in November, but it does still feel like football because we're getting closer. I'm curious to take this from a million different ways with you doing fantasy and gambling, but just from a fantasy perspective, how much has it changed preparing for a season with how influential rookies are becoming in the league? Used to be a time you didn't draft rookies. Rookies now have to be a part of your plan going forward. How do you assess the rookies going into this year, and who maybe do you like the most?
Yeah, I mean, rookies very much have to be part of the plan. I remember back in the day where it's like if a guy didn't have 2 or 3 years to grit his teeth, it didn't matter. But now they're coming more ready from the college ranks, and we know more about them. We're smarter as a fantasy industry now than we were a decade ago, let alone 5 years ago. So we know more. We have more scouting reports. As far as who are the top guys on the board this season, the receiver class is just phenomenal. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. checks every box that you would want to profile of a rookie coming into the league. I've got him ranked as a top 15 receiver without him ever playing an NFL down. And I don't really feel too bad about it. In that Arizona offense, Kyler Murray back in the mix. That offense should be explosive. Trey McBride obviously came on late last season, but there's no reason that Marvin Harrison can't clear 120 targets with relative ease and rank right up there with proven names like Devontae Adams, Chris Olave, and Amari Cooper. Like, there's no reason that he can't be a day one starter for fantasy teams in a round 2-3 pick.
You have a do not draft list that you put out yesterday. That's obviously pretty harsh because there's a lot of rounds in a draft. But who are the guys that you're thinking of? Like, listen, his name comes up, just stay away.
I'm sorry, I missed part of that. The do not draft list?
Yeah, just who are the top guys in which you're like, listen, I will not let my worst enemy draft these guys.
I mean, I don't want to, it's my first appearance on your show, and I don't want it to be my last, but Mike Evans does scare me from your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dave Canales, obviously gone. He's a year older. It doesn't, it's not breaking news that a guy gets older with time here. I think we all do that, but he's 53 picks more expensive this year than he was last, and I can't get over the fact that I just think Baker Mayfield kind of ran hot last season. Everything was going Evans' way in the red zone. He scored 11% more points in the red zone per game than any other receiver over the last 15 years that was in year 10 or later of their career. I mean, we're talking guys like Brandon Marshall, Randy Moss. Don't get me wrong. Mike Evans, a great player, but to be drafted this high, I can't get behind it. We're talking rookies earlier. Give me Marvin Harrison Jr. over Mike Evans this season, and I'm not thinking twice about it.
You know, you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona. Sometimes I stay away from teams. Is there a team you look at that, you know, obviously the Jets with the injury, they didn't score last year, but are there teams that you stay away from just because you think their offense is inept?
Yeah, I mean, I'll stay in the state of New York there. I'm from New York. I was born and raised in New York, so I hope they allow me back in there. You mentioned the Jets. I think they have upside here with Aaron Rodgers coming back. The Giants, I just don't see it. I mean, the stories we're getting about Daniel Jones are more about his dating life than anything he's doing on the football field. The running game, they brought in Devin Singletary. I'm not sure he's great. I mean, he's average, and you put average with a below-average offense. I'm out there. Malik Neighbors, another rookie receiver that's drawing a lot of attention, a little dinged up now, but nobody's expecting that to be a big deal. But you have to pay a premium for him. Like you said, these rookies are flying off the board here in 2024. I'm not willing to pay a premium for a great talent in an offense that we don't think is going to be able to move the ball. They were bottom 5 in just about every offensive category. I'll pass on Neighbors, and beyond that, there's nobody that I really have any interest. Maybe Tyrone Tracy late is a flyer type, but outside of that, you can miss me with the Giants this year.
Kyle Soppe, Pro Football Network, ProFootballNetwork.com. Follow him on X, Kyle Soppe, SOPPE, and then PFN, Kyle Soppe, PFN. All right. Are you in on the Falcons? Because they've had skill players for a couple years that obviously were not used properly, not just for winning games, but for doing anything in fantasy. So what do we do with their terrific tight end, their terrific wide receiver, Bijan Robinson? Now that they have Kirk Cousins and a new staff, are we in on the Falcons?
I think it depends kind of how you define in. I'm in on Bijan Robinson in a big way. I think he's one of the 2 running backs that has a chance to lead the position and lead all of fantasy in scoring for that matter. I don't see a reason why he can't approach 2,000 yards and score 10 to 12 times and be right in that conversation with Christian McCaffrey. So there is never a spot too early to take Bijan. After you get past that, Drake London, I'm lukewarm on Drake London. I've got him at wide receiver 16 right now in PPR leagues. That's not too far off of where he's being drafted. He's going to be the alpha. We know that. I'm not too worried about Darnell Mooney or Rondell Moore or the other options in that offense. Kirk Cousins has a history of being able to stabilize wide receiver ones in a big way. Obviously, he had Justin Jefferson, so that's kind of done for him. But he is coming off. He's an older quarterback coming off an injury. The plus side there, you don't have to worry about mobility. So everything he's doing is through the air. Drake London should have his best season to date. Is that going to result in the top 12 or 14 receiver season? I'm a little skeptical there, but I have no problem with him at cost. Kyle Pitts is where it gets interesting because he's burned everybody for 2 years after the 1,000-yard rookie season, and we'll see where that goes. I mean, it depends. His ADP is all over the place. If you've drafted him before, you don't want to draft him again. And if you haven't drafted him before, you see the profile, you see Kirk Cousins, it's easy to get excited. But the tight end position is deep as it's ever been. I've got Pitts right now at tight end 10, which puts him right on the fringe of a starter. I don't mind taking him. I'm not reaching for him. I will reach for Bijan. I'll even go a little high on Drake London, but I'm not going too far on Pitts yet.
So you sound like a guy that wouldn't draft a top tight end then. Like Kelsey, you would pass on because it's the depth at the position seems like you can get better value later in your draft. Is that a safe assessment?
Couldn't agree more. Kelsey was on the do not draft list. And again, you can check that out at profootballnetwork.com/fantasy. But yeah, Kelsey was highlighted as the tight end that I'm gonna pass on. They're concerned with a 3-peat, which is great for them. It's not great for fantasy managers. Over the last 2-3 seasons, Kelsey's really faded down the stretch of the regular season. He's been great in the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. They're winning titles, and he's a big part of it. But people aren't winning fantasy titles because of Travis Kelce. They might get there because of him, but then he's coming up short when it matters most. So, yes, I will pass on that expensive tight end. And even if somebody falls and I'm going to spend up, it's not going to be on the greatest of all time at the position in Kelce. It'll be a Sam Laporta. It'll be a Mark Andrews. It'll even go back to Arizona with Trey McBride. That's not going to be Travis Kelce in 2024.
I don't know if anybody runs the ball better than the Ravens. Derrick Henry now part of that team. You buying?
I mean, I'm in the projection and the number and the statistical basis. I don't know how you project this guy for anything less than a dozen touchdowns, which kind of puts him in that running back one conversation from go. I mean, Gus Edwards scored 13 times for this offense a season ago without much versatility, We know Derrick Henry's not going to catch a ton of balls, but Todd Monken showed us that he can be creative with that offense. Obviously, Lamar Jackson winning the MVP last season, year 2, you would only think this offense gets more potent. Derrick Henry's my running back 7 right now, and I think that's about as high as I'm going to get him. I've got kind of a tier break after the top 6 here. Henry's the top of that tier 2, but I have no concerns about Henry. You look at a guy like Lamar Jackson, he's not going to rush for touchdowns the way Josh Allen, the way Jalen Hurts do. Those two average more rushing touchdowns per season than Lamar's ever had this season. So you can book it, double-digit touchdowns for Henry, which elevates the floor. I'm not sure the ceiling is astronomical because he doesn't catch passes, but you're not losing your league because you spend an early pick on Henry.
Jahmyr Gibbs gets a hamstring injury yesterday in practice. When you see something like happen, they're expecting more out of him. That's an injury that lingers. Does that concern you?
It does. I mean, we have to wait and see more information. The injury came on the practice field, so we don't have clean video of it. There's a lot of moving pieces here, and that's why statement 1, if nobody takes anything from this interview, do your draft in early September. Don't do it in early to mid-August. I understand that the entertainment value is there. We get the smell of football. We want it. Wait as long as possible, people. I mean, that's what Jahmyr Gibbs' injury proves. It might be nothing. It might be catastrophic. We don't know at this point. He's my running back 5, and I feel great about it. I think he's got a legitimate chance to be a top 7 or 8 overall producer in our game in PPR leagues. But with this hamstring injury, you got to tread lightly right now. I haven't moved him in my ranks as a result, but that's just because we don't know. You look at the red zone usage last season, everybody thinks it's David Montgomery, his thunder, to Jahmyr Gibbs' lightning. It really wasn't that way. Gibbs had more red zone usage after he was acclimated past September last season. I expect more of the same in a massive season coming, assuming he's on the field to open the season.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for doing this. Great having you on the show. And you're welcome back. It's okay. I mean, it's all right. It doesn't matter who you stay away from and who you pick. We're good. We can take it. This is a stiff upper lip show, Kyle.
I'm going to hold you to that. I'll be back. You guys got my number. Call me. I'm happy to do this stuff anytime.
Kyle Soppe, Pro Football Network, ProFootballNetwork.com. Fantasy and betting is his area of expertise. Follow him on X, Kyle Soppe, SOPPE, Kyle Soppe, PFN, Kyle Soppe, PFN. A first-timer on Miller and Moulton.
Fired up. He was ready to go this morning.
He retweeted it at 6 a.m. He's ready to go.
Sounded a little young to be up that early. I'm impressed.
Now, he lives in Connecticut. Okay, so that's why to him, he's talking about, fall in the air.
Oh, no, I'm aware.
Which is funny because it's like 82 these days where he is. I don't know where, but.
Nothing like that 4 a.m. taking the dog out and having the humidity just slap you across the face.
I know. The other day it was literally 94% humidity at like 7 a.m. It was over the weekend. I was like, oh, my goodness. So Brad Gillie will join us in about 25 minutes. We'll clean up what took place at Richmond. And Chris Perkins, in about 45 minutes, we'll talk Dolphins, some more injuries. Is it coming together? Mike McDaniel says we have more NFL offensive linemen now than we've ever had. Well, hopes you're right, and it sounds like you're going to need them. More on Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com coming up.
Honey, you want to come out? I haven't seen you since Glass Doctor installed our custom shower enclosure.
No thanks.
Well, you can't keep eating breakfast in the shower, and laminating your magazines is getting expensive. You remember we have guests coming over tonight, right?
Oh, I'm sure they'd love to see the shower.
It's our neighbors, and I highly doubt they want to be hanging out in our bathroom.
The shower's so good, you'll never want to leave. Visit glassdoctor.com today and schedule an appointment online.
The Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com. Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
This is Miller and Moulton.
In fact, Dr. Roto Thursday on this show this week.
I liked Kyle. A lot of energy.
Yep.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Brad Gillie, talk a little racing, the aftermath of Richmond. 3 races left till the playoffs are set in NASCAR. Little racing talk with Brad Gillie coming up in a little more than 15 minutes time. Chris Perkins, talk little Dolphins at the top of our Diamond District bonus hour for the 239 and the 904. 21,000, the text line. Anything you've heard on the show today or anything you want to chime in about, 21,000. If you haven't in the last 3 weeks, because we've had to reconfigure some things on this show, no more Florida Sports Network. So the keyword is Miller. Miller. Make sure you use it. Otherwise, your texts go to Michigan. And they're not, well, they're seen, but they're not heard. So, we want to hear from you. 21,000, keyword Miller.
So school started yesterday.
Yep.
And my daughter didn't have homework, but the wife and I did.
What?
This year is a bigger year now for the kid, and everything's on an iPad. All the homework is done on an iPad. In order for mom and dad to be able to see the homework, there was a whole process in which we had to go through. And I've got to be honest, it's the only time I feel like I'm the smart one in my house. Because technologically, my wife is a little ahead of where you are.
Oh, okay.
So we had to log in, register, and become the, parental observers of our daughter on this system.
Right.
And that throws the wife for a loop.
Sure.
So it's the only time around the house that I feel like, hey, I'm needed for something around here. Outside of cooking meals, which there's nothing smart about that. That's just putting food on a plate.
Did you tell her my story about being at the restaurant and having to go online or use the app to order that? And that must be how she feels. She's kind of like, well, why can't she just show me her homework?
Exactly. Log on, notifications, the whole kit and caboodle.
Right.
To be able to keep track of things.
So does the school provide the iPad?
Yes.
I was going to say, I mean, would seem to be necessary. I mean,
no, school provides it.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
It would be a son of a gun if they didn't. That'd be
well.
I
listen.
Yeah, punch right in the nose.
School districts are, hurting for money. Private schools, hurting for money. Budget cuts, the whole deal. You just never know. I just felt it was a necessary question. Hey, can I throw something totally different subject, and probably should have brought it up yesterday because it would have been more timely. We talk Mount Rushmores from time to time. Where are we putting Steph Curry? Because for 30 years, you could not bring up the greatest point guard of all time and not say it's Magic Johnson. You just couldn't. You'd be laughed out of the room. Of course, if we're going by position and we're doing Mount Rushmore, then the backcourt, of course, is Magic and Michael. Well, I mean, he's technically a point guard. Now, I know we only think about it for shooting. But is he getting to that rarefied air?
It's a really fascinating question because can you be on the Mount? Can you change the game the way he's changed the game and not be on the Mount Rushmore?
There you go. Now, listen, obviously, I mean, you're a Michigan State alum. You met Magic, the whole deal. You love Magic. Favorite player of all time. Not even close, the whole deal. Who changed the game more, Magic or Steph? Changed the game. Impacted the game more.
Well, those are different questions.
They are.
Magic impacted the game. Magic and Larry saved the damn league. How
That's
can
right.
you impact the game more than that?
That's right. So if the word is impact, it's Magic. Changed the game.
Changed the game, Steph Curry.
How
but
many
I will say
players
Magic changed it in this regard? There were not 6'8" point guards before Magic. There was no thought of a big guy handling the ball the way that Magic Johnson handled the ball.
No, Oscar Robertson, but that's really it. Okay, and he was more of a small forward than a point. He was arguably the first point forward.
And when did Oscar Robertson play?
Right, 60s and 70s.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So impacted, I think it's Magic, but
change the
game. It very well could be Steph.
I mean, outside of Wilt, if we're talking about who has changed the NBA more, and we're coming up with a Mount Rushmore of change the NBA, well, Wilt has to be on it. I mean, they changed the rules, for goodness sakes. But, I mean, Mark, the game is being played in part the way it is now. I mean, Caitlin Clark is because of Steph Curry.
Absolutely.
Come on. That's who she watched.
Absolutely. The whole game revolves around 3-point shots right now. Whether you like the game now or not, it's irrelevant. The effect that Steph's had on the game is transformative.
Monstrous, yes. But I'm just wondering, I mean, listen, we put LeBron on the Mount Rushmore of the NBA years ago. And those that don't like him and disagree with that, you're wrong. I
mean, Michael and LeBron are right there.
Yeah, I mean, he just is. Okay, but, I mean, you want to go titles, got 4, MVPs, the Olympic heroics, even though he didn't win MVP. But, I mean, by the way, it's the only Olympics he's ever played in, which makes you wonder what are we doing? But anyway, I'm just curious now. Historically, he's becoming an epic figure in this sport, isn't he?
He already is. We've never seen anybody shoot it that well. Ever. I mean, Tirico in the post-game interview referred to him as the best shooter to ever play. I don't think he's wrong.
I mean, if Reggie Miller signs off on it, I'm good. Certainly he's got the best range. Even Reggie would go, yeah, he hit him from deeper than me. His downtown's deeper than mine.
I'm sure Reggie says, I wish I could have played in this era where I could have chucked up 15 threes a night.
And I wasn't grabbed constantly while trying to get open. But that's all. We probably should have done it yesterday. It was fresh in everybody's mind and the whole deal. But I mean, could 2 of today's players be on the Mount Rushmore? I guess is what I'm getting at. Usually we do 1 from an era.
Well, who would be your Mount Rushmore then? Let me pin you down. You go Mount Rushmore. I mean, you better have one for me.
Well, also,
Michael, LeBron, and who?
Are we just doing the best players of all time, or are we doing by position?
Well, Mount Rushmore's 4.
Right. Well, I would probably go Wilt, Michael, LeBron, and Steph. And it's close, Wilt or Russell. I might go, if you give me, I might talk myself back into Russell. In fact, I probably would. But then again, it will change. It's an impossible Mount Rushmore, but
it really is.
But I'm leaning more and more towards putting Steph on it.
And Magic and Bird aren't on the list.
Yeah, which makes me feel like I should be fired. Listen, every vote on this show has to be 2-0, so I can't be fired because I'll at least abstain.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
Todd, have you noticed every jewelry store in town sounds like a broken record?
I do. We're all saying and claiming the same thing. Largest selection, lowest prices, non-commissioned sales team. It's the same tune over and over.
Exactly. It's just noise.
Jason and I aren't all talk. We walk the walk, brokering diamonds directly, giving you the best value on GIA certified diamonds.
That's right. We're not just selling jewelry. We're living and breathing it. It's our passion, and we're for real, not hired voices on the radio reading scripts.
Come explore our collection of GIA certified diamonds and diamond jewelry with our curated assortment of rare and exotic gemstones. Also, we're excited about our previously enjoyed Rolex timepieces, as well as our large estate jewelry collection.
Skip the noise and come feel the difference with your go-to guys for diamonds. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
The Floormeisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com, Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Just curious, Twitch chat, how many of you have signed up for the text line as well? Since you get, kind of real-time texting, do you sign up for the text line as well? Just curious. And I don't care one way or another. It matters not to me. I think it can be a little redundant when you come at me from both. But I get it. Moulton doesn't say your comment. You want someone to say your comment. You come at me. I get it. Fair enough. Yeah, just curious because I'm looking at the numbers that we have, and I'm trying to line someone up to sponsor the text line so that we can actually send people, hopefully a restaurant where there might be some specials or some things that you get for being a texter. Oh, we got another guest here. Crap. All set.
Thank you.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Chris Perkins to talk Dolphins at the top of the hour, the Diamond District bonus hour, and the 239 and the 904. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com. Make sure you go to the website, millerandmoulton.com. Sign up for the Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit a week from tonight. millerandmoulton.com, still seats available. Brad Gillie, kind enough to join us once again. He's part of PRN Network. He does pre and post for every NASCAR race on SiriusXM NASCAR Channel 90. You can follow Brad on X at Brad Gillie, Gillie. Brad, it's David and Mark once again. We normally say, how are you? But I'm guessing in the last 48 hours, you got a lot of energy in this sport again, huh?
Yeah, it's amazing how a 2-week Olympics break, and all we saw throughout most of that were a couple of drivers getting married, vacations, everyone relaxing and doing all of that. And the next thing you know, the first race back, we come back and it ends in some big controversy with Austin Dillon spinning 2 drivers to actually go and win the race. It was great stuff when it comes to talk radio, though.
Well, I'm curious, how was your audience after the race? Were they on the side of Dillon? Logano was very adamant in his comments about Dillon after. I'm just curious, how did the audience take what happened?
It was interesting to me because there was a lot of the fan base that right now is like, hey, this is NASCAR. You want to go out there and win a race, you're going to have to do some pushing and shoving. This went beyond the pushing and shoving. A lot of the audience, not fans of Joey Logano or Denny Hamlin. And, so they kind of side with Austin Dillon. A lot of the audience see that number 3 on the side of Austin Dillon's car and, want to invoke the name of Dale Earnhardt, who made that car number famous. And then there are a few people who are like, look, that's just not the way you're supposed to win a race. And is NASCAR going to allow something like that to happen for someone to just, be a bull in a china shop on the final lap of the race and, go up and spin one driver, then go down and spin another driver and take the victory. So it's kind of mixed. But to be honest with you, for the fan base, I think the majority are okay with what happened.
Do you think they're okay? And this may be an impossible question to answer. Do you think they're okay with what happened because they just want races decided on the track, no matter how messy? Or are they okay because of everything else you just mentioned? Denny Hamlin has the people who really don't like him. Logano's got even more people that don't like him. All right. And it's Richard Childress racing in the 3 car. And if you're of a certain age, how can you not be sentimental? How much of that makes this okay? as opposed to what in fact he did.
Look, if the roles were reversed, and if Denny Hamlin did that to Joey Logano and Austin Dillon, for example, most of the fan base would be riled up that Hamlin needs to be suspended, all of these other things. And I can say that based on past history, because when Denny Hamlin ran Kyle Larson up the wall a couple of times, there were people who thought, Denny Hamlin shouldn't do something like that. Denny Hamlin this. A lot of it really depends on who does it and who it's done to. So I do think there's a big element of that. I honestly think there's a lot of the fan base that are like, look, this is NASCAR. We don't need a bunch of wimps out there. We don't need to sterilize the sport. If they're going to be banging fenders, hey, whatever it takes to win, Austin Dillon did what he had to do. I've heard a lot of that.
Well, and to me, and I'm a novice NASCAR fan, I fully admit that. When I watched it and I watched it live, I was exhilarated by it. I thought it was a fantastic finish. I'm at the edge of my seat. And when you bring someone like me in, isn't that what NASCAR is supposed to be trying to do?
I would say right or wrong, depending on how you look at it. And I think it was wrong. I don't like what he did. I don't think someone should either A, win races that way, or B, be allowed to win races that way. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter where you look right now. It could be a sports outlet. It could be a traditional news outlet. It could be anywhere. We're seeing the finish of that race at Richmond. And that is a good thing for NASCAR, because that's going to make more people interested as to what happens this week in Michigan, next weekend at Daytona. I mean, it's one of those that's going to put more eyeballs on the sport. Ultimately, it's a good thing as far as that's concerned.
Do you think, SMU got the death penalty nearly 40 years ago from football, and the NCAA said, yeah, we can never do that again. NASCAR, what's it, 33 years ago, black flagged Ricky Rudd when he took out Davey Allison in a road course race, and they haven't done it really, Brad, since. Do you think this is like the line that NASCAR has just said, listen, we ain't taking wins away from anybody. We don't care how bad it is. And they look at this and they go, once again, we ain't taking wins away from anybody, no matter how bad it is.
Yeah, I think that they're not going to take the win away, because if that was going to happen, I feel they're not going to. That would have happened on Sunday night at Richmond. I do think there are going to be penalties, and whether they get announced this afternoon or tomorrow morning, there are going to be a lot of people who are penalized. Joey Logano went down pit road, in a very angry way when there were people walking on pit road. That's going to cost him a lot of money, maybe some points. Austin Dillon's spotter, very clear on the radio, telling him to go down, down, down toward Denny Hamlin and wreck him. I would be surprised if we see his spotter back at the racetrack for a while. Dillon himself, there have been drivers when they have what we would consider a right hook, hit a right rear quarter panel and turned someone up into the wall, who have been suspended. It happened to Chase Elliott last year when he did it to Denny Hamlin in the Coca-Cola 600. Now, if NASCAR looks at what Austin Dillon did there as intentional, then I could see him actually being suspended a race for that. So we don't know yet. We won't know until this afternoon. But the win's not going to be taken away. And really, it would depend on what penalties come down and how the penalties are given as to whether or not it could affect Austin Dillon's eligibility for the playoffs. And that would be a big, big hit, because he went from 32nd in the point standings to now a playoffs contender.
So you see an area where they could split this, keep the win, but not give him playoff eligibility for the win?
I could see that. If he got suspended, then NASCAR would have to grant him a waiver to be still playoffs eligible, because the playoffs rules say, well, you have to attempt to start every race. The problem is the corner that NASCAR's backed into on this. Last year, they gave Chase Elliott a waiver when he spun Denny Hamlin. This year, they gave Kyle Larson a waiver when he outright missed the Coca-Cola 600 because he ran the Indianapolis 500 and got stuck in the Indy because of a rain delay. So that's going to be a tough thing. I don't see that scenario happening, but there would be an avenue for NASCAR to do that should they feel that what Austin Dillon did was egregious enough in not only winning the race, but in violating several rules along the way. I don't see it happening, but there would be a pathway for it too.
Brad Gillie, part of PRN. He does pre and post on NASCAR Radio Channel 90 for Sirius XM. Follow him on X at Brad Gillie, Gillie. Isn't this, though, dangerous for NASCAR because, I mean, now if guys know you can do anything, and get credit for a win. I mean, Brad, they know they're not supposed to, but aren't they going to do it?
Yeah, unless NASCAR states some sort of rule, then yeah, that means this is on the table. That means it's on the table to be 2 car lengths away from someone's back bumper and have zero intention of, hitting the brakes going into a corner and saying, I'm just going to wreck them to win the race. Denny Hamlin brought up a good point on this. What if this is the championship race in the season finale? And that's the way the championship turns out. Is that what NASCAR wants to see? Is that what's good for the sport? Is that what's fair in the sport? And I think these are where NASCAR today is going to be making some very tough decisions on how they handle this situation. Elton Sawyer, a former racer, now NASCAR Senior Vice President of Competition, said Sunday night, this is about as close to the line as we've ever seen. We're going to go back and review everything. And they have everything. They have the radio transmissions. They have telemetry from the steering and the braking and everything that happened in the race car. They have more video angles than we've probably been able to see at this point. And they're going to review everything. But again, I think it's a valid question. What if this is our season finale? Is this the way NASCAR wants to see a championship won?
Well, and the other thing I wonder, Brad, is one thing it's at Richmond, but what if they try doing this at Daytona when the speeds are higher? I mean, it didn't seem as dangerous at Richmond as it could be at a bigger track.
Yeah, and the thing is, at Daytona, heck, this just happens on incidental contact.
Right.
Because of, that 200-mile-per-hour bumper-to-bumper traffic jam they're in. But, yeah, I think of Michigan this weekend the same way. They're going to be going into those corners at over 200 miles per hour. And that's why what Chase Elliott did to Denny Hamlin last year at Charlotte was so egregious, because that was a hard hit. And, even at Richmond, we've seen Richmond drivers have wrecks that were literally career ending for them. And now you take a track that's going to be almost twice as fast. Again, these are all things that NASCAR is going to have to take a deep dive and say, what do we want moving forward? And how they rule on this today is going to set the tone on what is acceptable and what is not.
Well, and also, a valuable playoff spot was in theory just lost. Like, our guy's Ross Chastain, he's now out. If they take this win away, at least in terms of the playoffs, he's tied for the final spot with Chris Buescher, and Bubba Wallace isn't on, the line. I mean, this is huge.
Yeah, it really is. A lot of people talk about what it's worth to Austin Dillon and his team. Probably millions of dollars to go from 32nd to no worse than 16th. But the same holds true for Chastain. I agree with you. I thought the very same thing. I live with a very large Chastain fan, so I'm well aware of, what's going on with that. And, yeah, it is huge because there's only 3 races to go. And how does that work? And is this the way we want to see the postseason decided as far as who is in and who is out?
By the way, final question about Ross. Did they find some speed this week that they haven't had? He's also had some bad luck. He's been in the top 5 and wrecked late and had bad finishes. But, I mean, we're now worried. I never thought he would miss the playoffs. Now I'm worried.
Yeah, I am too. And look, I don't know that he had a 4th place car at Richmond, but they had a much better car. And to me, that was evidenced by what Ross said after the race. That wasn't them just manufacturing a good finish. There was a lot of speed in the car. Problem is, there are the people that he's racing around, like Bubba Wallace. They have had really good cars as well, but they needed that reset. They needed the turnaround. I mean, the 4 races leading into the Olympics break, Ross Chastain collected 42 total points. That was the same amount of points that Bubba Wallace got at Indianapolis alone. So they needed to kind of stop, all of the points that they were shedding week in and week out. So I think that's a good sign. I think going into Michigan, we'll see what kind of speed they have. Obviously, we know he's good at Daytona, and we know he's great at Darlington. So I have high hopes for him making the playoffs, but Austin Dillon winning and taking one of those spots just made it that much more difficult.
Brad Gillie, Performance Racing Network, pre and post, SiriusXM, NASCAR Channel 90. Follow him on X, Brad Gillie, Gillie. Brad, thanks so much. You've been gracious to us over the years. Hopefully we can do this again right around the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks, Mark. Always appreciate talking to you guys.
Brad Gillie, kind enough to join us once again here on Miller and Moulton. I still think they're taking the win away. And if they let them keep the win but take them out of the playoffs, to me, that's taking the win away.
I thought what Brad brought up as the precedent this year of the waivers in the last couple of years. But again, NASCAR does their own thing when it comes to ruling. So we don't know.
They literally own the sport. They can do whatever they want, and they have.
They're not taking the win away.
So you think he'll be in the playoff?
They may. Now, I didn't say that. They're not taking the win away. They may try to split the atom here, David. They really might.
Well, the significance, though, is the spot in the playoff. Like Brad even said, that's millions of dollars worth of value to that race team. So you think they'll huff and they'll puff and points and this and that and a fine and you suck and may even park you for a race.
Who's the owner of that car?
Richard Childress.
What number is that car? I'm just checking.
That would be the 3 car.
The 3 car. Okay.
Yep.
A lot of other cars would have bigger problems if they had different owners. But the number 3 for Childress Racing, I just have trouble seeing NASCAR lower the boom on the 3 car.
I will then, if you're right, I will make your prediction. One of the playoff races will be decided the exact same way.
David, one of the playoff races might be decided the same way regardless. They'll just have to be a little smarter about it. And now they need code words for the spotters to wreck somebody.
Right. You just can't go, wreck them, down.
You know, all of a sudden you're going to hear a spotter yell bagel. And you're, what? You know.
See, the problem is the great code phrase you can't use. It takes too long. I mean, Blue Horseshoe loves Anacott Steel. You can't do that in a split second.
No, you cannot. That would make it a little obvious, I think, no matter what. But we'll see what happens today with NASCAR as they'll rule on the race at Richmond on Sunday.
Blue Horseshoe. Maybe that's the translation. Anacott Steel. And you know, I got to wreck them. Steel. Just turn them into scrap metal. Miller and Moulton. Chris Perkins. We'll switch gears. We'll talk Dolphins in the 239 and the 904 for the bonus hour. For the rest of you, have a great day. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real. Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound. Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor, a neighborly company.
The Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com, Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football
This is Miller and Moulton.
Yeah. We good.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, coming at you from the Floor Meister Studios. Floor Meisters, keeping it real. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
We've had a terrific show today. Miller and Moulton, the Diamond District Bonus Hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Our poll question, National Filet Mignon Day. What's your favorite cut of meat? Ribeye getting half the vote, the other half being split between filet and New York strip. Go to millerandmoulton.com and sign up for the Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit as well. Chris Perkins is kind enough to join us once again. He covers the Dolphins for the Sun Sentinel. Follow him on X at Chris Perk. Chris Perk, P-E-R-K. Chris, David, and Mark, good morning. How's camp going?
Oh, man, camp is going good, man. That Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher, just got activated yesterday, so that's a nice pick-me-up for the whole team. Gives us something else to write about. So expectations are high, hopes are high, man. So far, so good in camp.
That had to be, was that ahead of schedule, on schedule with Phillips coming back?
You know, it's interesting because Jalen has been documenting everything on social media, on X, formerly known as Twitter, right? I feel like I have to say that. It's like, the artist formerly known as Prince. But he's been documenting it. And really, the Dolphins hadn't told us anything. We would see Jalen out there running during practice and then running harder and at more speed and stuff like that. But the Dolphins really didn't keep us up. We figured that he was ready by seeing him and by watching him on social media. And so whether it's on schedule, I think he's a little bit ahead of schedule, but let's see how this progresses toward that September 8th opener against Jacksonville. The way it's looking, he'll probably be able to get out there for, 20, 25 snaps or something like that.
Chris Perkins, outstanding Dolphins columnist for the Sun Sentinel. Follow him on X at Chris Perk. Chris Perk. All right, McDaniel said something, I think it was yesterday, in which he said, we have more NFL caliber offensive linemen in camp now than we have during my previous time here. A, do you agree with that sentiment? And B, okay, they're NFL caliber, but are they NFL good?
You hit it on the head with B. A, I do think that he's correct, but B is the bigger issue here because, as you look at these offensive linemen, Teron Armstead at left tackle, he could start for a lot of teams. Austin Jackson at right tackle, he could probably start for half the teams. The rest of these guys, they belong in the league, but I don't know if they would start for very many teams. So what you're looking at is the majority of your offensive linemen on another team would probably be like number 5, 6, or 7. They would kind of be at the tail end of the starting lineup or one of the top reserves. I don't think that's such a bad issue. I wrote a column yesterday just saying that my top 10 concerns with the Dolphins, offensive line is not in it. Backup quarterback is not in it. So I do think that McDaniel is correct, but you've got some low-quality offensive linemen. You've got enough to get by, not enough to excel at offensive line.
Well, because the backup quarterback's a concern to us and the O-line's a concern to us. What's the biggest concern to you, Chris?
Oh, it's easily the Dolphins have to be able to beat the top teams on their schedule. And look, in the last 2 years, the Dolphins are 3-12 against playoff teams. Last year, they were 1-6 against playoff teams, and they got beat by an average score of 32-16. In those 7 games against the playoff teams, when they went 1-6, Tua has 8 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Tyreek Hill, who had 8 100-yard receiving games last year, none of them came against playoff teams. Jalen Waddle, who had 3 100-yard receiving games and 4 touchdowns last year, none of them came against playoff teams. Raheem Mostert, who had a franchise record 18 rushing touchdowns last year, one of them came against a playoff team. So you've got to beat the best teams on your schedule. To me, that's a clear number one problem with this team.
What do you think is the number one reason for it? Is it just a flaw in the roster? Is it they're not physically tough enough at the point of attack? Is it Mike McDaniel's approach, which is more of a speed, spread, finesse approach when they can run the ball for 5 yards a carry, but he doesn't like to do it for some reason. I'm curious why it is you think they're 3-12 against playoff teams.
I think it's all of that. It's the Mike McDaniel offense. I think the better teams, look, what happens is pretty much everybody keeps two safeties deep because they want to prevent Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle from getting that big play. So that leaves the run game open. In those 7 games that I talk about against playoff teams where the Dolphins are 1-6, they rushed for over 100 yards in 4 of those games because you're never seeing an 8-man front. You can just run it against them. The problem is the Dolphins' run game isn't going to beat anybody. And so you're kind of in this situation where, yes, you're playing a finesse offense in a physical sport, and you've got Mike McDaniel, who is really kind of trying to reinvent the wheel by being very soft on these guys, giving them a lot of days off in training camp. He's not going to stress their bodies. He's got this new age offense that relies on speed and again, in a brutal physical game. It's all of these things and the play calling that relies so heavily on Tyreek and Jalen. You've got to diversify the play calling. You've got to involve the slot receiver. You've got to involve the tight end. You've got to make different calls on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, red zone, goal line. You've got to make more physical calls. And when we talk about this team being tough, I'm not just talking about making a big hit on somebody and then standing over them and getting the crowd fired up. I'm talking about a tough mentality. So on 3rd and 1, don't run a jet sweep. Run it down their throat. Let them know that we have no respect for your run defense. We're going to run over you whenever we choose. 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, we're doing the same thing, but we see these cute little screen passes and these end arounds, these very finesse calls. So that toughness, that tough mentality has to start and include Mike McDaniel also in the play calling. You can't just turn tough on and off. You've got to have a tough mindset throughout the game, and you've got to call the game that way. So to me, there's a lot of reasons that they don't beat the good teams, and really the Dolphins have got to zero in on this and figure it out.
You know, Chris, when you're talking about the play calling and all that, it's part of that toughness to me has to be Tua, and simply once in a while being able to run the ball for a first down to show the rest of his team he's not afraid to go get a 3rd and 4 with his feet. And that's something he's really not done a lot of.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't think they want Tua running because of his concussion history. Now, Tua has, last year, he did run a couple of times and get a couple of tough first downs, but I think the Dolphins would frown on that. I think Tua would really, I don't think he wants to put himself in that situation very often. What's interesting here is we do know that Tua lost weight, and we do know that part of it is to improve his agility and mobility in the pocket. But I think that's more of kind of a lateral side-to-side, escape defenders and buy yourself more time rather than running north and getting a lot of yards on a frequent basis. And I'll say this, I do think that, when you talk about toughness with this team, I do think that they acquired some players, some tough-minded players. Aaron Brewer, the center, who's out right now with a hand injury, he's tough-minded. Saran Neal, the free agent, the special teams ace that they got from Buffalo, he's tough-minded. Jordan Poyer, he's tough-minded. Jordan Brooks, he's tough-minded. Jonnu Smith, he's tough-minded. So hopefully, I think that they recognize they need to be a little tougher, and they did bring in some more physical players this offseason.
It looks like Mike White and Skylar Thompson can't play. I mean, you're not concerned, but we are, because our definition of a backup quarterback is not Nick Foles coming in and winning a Super Bowl. It's sprained knee, out 3 weeks. Can the guy come in and go 2-1? Are we sure Mike White or Skylar Thompson can go 2-1 in a 3-game stretch?
Here's the deal. Skylar Thompson has had the better training camp, but I still trust Mike White more in a game. And that's because of what Mike White showed me with the Jets. Now, granted, that's now 2 years ago. Mike White didn't play a whole lot last year with Tua getting all 17 starts. and rarely coming out of the game. But I do think that, one of those guys could go 2-1, 2-2 because of the resources around them. I mean, let's face it, a backup quarterback on this team doesn't have to do a whole lot, right? You get the ball to Tyreek, you get the ball to Waddle, you get the ball to Moulton, you get the ball to Devon Achane, you get the ball to Jalen Wright, the rookie running back that they drafted in the 4th round, who had a pretty nice debut against the Falcons, 10 carries for 55 yards. Get the ball to Jonnu Smith. Get the ball to Durham Smythe, your other tight end. That's pretty much all you have to do is distribute the ball. Now, Tua has to do a little more, and Tua is a little more talented. He has to actually make plays. But for the backup quarterback, you have a defense that was number 10 in the league last year. Let them do some work too. So, yeah, if the backup quarterback comes in and just is kind of a point guard and doesn't try to do too much, that team ought to be able to carry him. It's not as much about the backup quarterback. It's more about the team and the talent and how you take the load off of the backup quarterback. The Dolphins ought to be able to be good enough to do that for 3 or 4 games.
30 seconds. So how much of the starters are we going to see this week?
We should see a good amount of the starters as Mike McDaniel goes by previous patterns. Tua plays this game and the starters get the next game off. So I'm expecting on Saturday against Washington, 7 o'clock Hard Rock Stadium, that we will see the starters definitely start the game. How far they go, do they play the entire first half? I don't know, but I would think we're going to see Tua and the rest of the starters out there.
Chris, we look forward to talking to you throughout the year. Thanks so much. Try to stay cool as much as you can, and we'll talk down the road.
All right, guys, we'll do it again. Thanks.
Chris Perkins, Dolphins columnist for the Sun Sentinel. Follow him on X at Chris Perk, P-E-R-K. Speaking of Washington, they signed wide receiver Martavis Bryant today. He had worked out with them twice. Veteran wideout. Washington signed him within the last half hour.
Well, that was all about the offense, and that's not – I mean, it's interesting with the brand new defensive coordinator, some changes there. Well, they should be tough enough. I think the mentality coming over with Weaver coming from Baltimore, I think that toughens that defense even more than it was a year ago. But in the interior on the offensive line, are they tough enough there? That's what I still wonder.
I wonder if they're tough enough on the interior of the D-line, though, too, Mark. Okay, the teams lined up last year where they wanted to. Good ones did and ran the ball. Miller and Moulton. 25 minutes away from the good, bad, and ugly, what's on tap, and today was the day when. Thanks for listening. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks lie peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and 1 replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
The Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com. Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football
Mark
Summit.
Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
This is Miller and Moulton.
many years ago before he got to the NFL as coach of the Washington Redskins. Well, the opportunity finally came that he was looking for to get into NASCAR Winston Cup racing. I'm not going to get shoved beside the numbers, so I got to change direction on that. That was a good job of the defense. Hey, get out, get out. Let's go, come on.
Washington Redskins football coach Joe Gibbs knows how to win championships. And now,
I'm sure a lot of people in the sports world were surprised when Joe Gibbs announced recently that he would field the NASCAR Winston Cup.
I got to admit, I love little historical tidbits. I'm reading a memo that former President H.W. Bush sent to his staff. Important announcement. This is an all points bulletin from the president. Subject, my dog Ranger. And it basically says, the dog's fat. You all need to stop feeding him. Otherwise, I'm going to enter him into the Houston fat stock show as a prime whatever. Now, it's what he puts in the memo. He goes, so this is just basically stop feeding the dog. We need your help. All hands, please help, from the president. What we wouldn't give to go back to those days, huh?
Welcome to the bonus hour, brought to you by Jason and Todd at the Diamond District. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, MillerandMoulton.com, Miller_Moulton on X. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day ones. Final thoughts, pick or two, all coming up in a little more than 15 minutes time. Good show today. Antwan, Staley, Chris Perkins talking Jets and Dolphins. Kyle Soppe, little fantasy. Wetting the whistle, you know, Mark, a week from tonight. Fantasy Football Summit, just wetting the whistle.
Get you ready to win your league. Dr. Roto. Go to MillerandMoulton.com to sign up. Still seats available for our Fantasy Football Summit brought to you by Floor Meisters. 1 week from tonight at Shoeless Joe's at the Doubletree in the Bell Tower Shops.
Little racing with Brad Gillie. NASCAR expected to announce today what, if anything, they're going to do with how Richmond ended. Miller and Moulton on differing sides of the street here as to what they should do and what they're going to do.
Now, what they should do and what they're going to do are two different things. I agree with you, David, that they should have taken the win away. I don't think that they will. But as a novice fan, as someone who doesn't understand the intricacies of NASCAR, watching it live, it was great.
Yeah, you loved it. You texted out about it.
Right.
About NASCAR.
Correct.
I've been receiving texts from you for a long time. Don't know how many NASCAR texts I've ever gotten.
Not since Ross drove on the wall.
That was pretty amazing. So, of course, they outlawed it.
Right.
Makes no sense. Anyways, so we'll see and hear later today what, if anything, they in fact will do. Hey, the Kyle Soppe guy, I didn't bring this up. So he does not just fantasy, he does betting. Do you know Saturday night, early Sunday morning, he was saying bet Aaron Rye to win the Wyndham?
Really?
Yes. You go follow his tweets, if you will, his posts on X, and you go back, and he narrowed it down to the highest ranked players that were near the top of the leaderboard, and this, that, and the other thing. And I think Rye was the second highest ranked, and it came down to him or Herschel. And he said, I'm going to take Rye.
Yeah, I was all over Horschel, and I was dead wrong.
Well, I mean, you know, he was there, but just never got hot, was steady. Didn't make many bogeys, just didn't make enough birdies. But yeah, I mean, he said, my pick's a guy who's never won on the PGA Tour before. That's pretty bold.
That's very bold.
And accurate. So,
and particularly when he was down 4 with 4 to play.
Right. So, speaking of that, by the way, somebody came out yesterday and said, listen, I'm going to defend Kuchar, in which he said Kuchar was furious Sunday. Furious at how slow play was thought that the pace of play in the group in front of him cost the guy in his group the tournament, that it unraveled him. And he thought that they should have stopped playing with 3 holes to go. Okay, definitely should have stopped playing with 2 holes to go, and that he hit into him, okay, to prove a point. And that's why he did it. Okay, and that he won't say this publicly, but that's why he did all this, and then that's why he also said, you know what, the hell with it, I'll come back Monday. That's how blanked I am at this nonsense that's going on.
Got a hell of a drop on Monday morning.
Well, we could talk about that.
But I don't blame Kuchar for trying to get the drop. I blame the PGA for allowing it.
It's ridiculous. You can't see the scoreboard that he's referencing that's in my way. And no offense, dude. You're one of the top 100 players in the world. If you hit that scoreboard, that's on you.
But we've talked about it a few times. The drops that these guys, the breaks that these guys receive because of grandstands and scoreboards are something.
Well, and the sprinkler heads oh, come on. Please, we're not allowed to make any noise anywhere near you for 30 seconds. You guys get every break in the world. Come on, you're the best in the world. You don't need these breaks. You know who needs this break? 16 handicapper needs a drop. I mean, Kuchar was in 4 inches of rough. He got the drop in the fairway to his left.
What did he drop on 10 fairway?
Yeah. Ridiculous. And he hit the pin. He gets it pin high just off the green. He chips it. It hits the pin. It nearly went in. He nearly made birdie because of it. He ain't making better than bogey if they make him play it where he should.
And that affects other guys' earnings. And again, Kuchar took advantage of the rules that are there. He did nothing wrong.
No,
this is not a Matt Kuchar thing here. It's the PGA Tour thing that we're talking about.
Right. No. He asked for the drop. They could have said no. No, it's on the tour.
Because it was in the morning round, I believe, the guy who led after Friday, who shot 10 under, he was a little deeper in the trees. He had to play it out to 10 fairway and then hit it on the green and try to make par. The shot he hit on the green over the scoreboard, not being able to see the green, that was a pretty damn good shot.
Yeah.
To hit a blind 7-iron over a grandstand.
So anyway, that's, and I know you're in agreement with me. I kind of feel like this issue where we are on NASCAR, because you and I are both very anti-slow play.
Very much so. It's ridiculous. And look, between the new the aim putting that they do, and now the guy who won it there, Aaron
Rye.
The new thing where they're taking their left hand. I mean, the deliberate putting strokes that they take, can be painful to watch. He was slow. He is slow. There's no two way. He's really good. His tee to green numbers and all that stuff are incredible. He's a really good player. He's slow.
And they don't even put people on the clock on the PGA Tour anymore. I mean, at least the LPGA Tour has addressed it. Okay, they not only fine people, they penalize them strokes, and they'll put the leaders on the clock. They'll put the final group on the clock on the LPGA Tour, which when you think of it seems absurd, but they're like, no, man, you got to keep up. Let's go.
It shouldn't be that hard for them to play this in 5 hours, not 6. It's bad enough that it should be 4.5. It's ridiculous how long it takes them to play.
And I know it was, live clean in place, and they played threesomes. I get it. So you knew it was going to take 5 hours, but it was taking 6. Come on. And they don't care.
Well, and David, for it to change, CBS would have to care. They're television partners. And I don't think they cared one bit with that golf going into the 8 o'clock hour.
No, not during the summer. No, because I think also it was a repeat of 60 minutes. So I think they were fine with it. They're like, oh, yeah, this will be great. Besides, maybe people will watch this instead of the Olympics.
But to me, it's a problem because I think it trickles down. And the fact that they will put people on the clock and not do anything is almost worse than if you're going to put someone on the clock and they don't speed up, then penalize them.
This guy defending Kuchar said this was his theory, and that Kuchar didn't want to take the PR grief he would have taken from the other guys on tour about complaining about slow play and hitting into the group in front of him in protest. Okay, but he misjudged the grief he was going to get from the public and from Joe Golf fan by pulling the stunt that he did coming back yesterday.
When he got a lot of grief. He got attacked by pretty much every member of the golf media for coming back on Monday and not finishing. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Today was a day when and what's on tap. It's how we finish things off right here on Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real. The Floor Meisters Fantasy Football Summit is back Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock at the all-new Shoeless Joe's inside the Doubletree at the Bell Tower Shops, Fort Myers. Dr. Roto is the star, and he'll answer all your fantasy questions to give you his keys to winning your league. So sign up for Dr. Roto dinner and non-alcoholic drinks at millerandmoulton.com. Seating is limited. millerandmoulton.com, Tuesday, August 20th, 7 o'clock, the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
Todd, have you noticed every jewelry store in town sounds like a broken record?
I do. We're all saying and claiming the same thing. Largest selection, lowest prices, non-commissioned sales team. It's the same tune over and over.
Exactly. It's just noise.
Jason and I aren't all talk. We walk the walk, brokering diamonds directly, giving you the best value on GIA certified diamonds.
That's right. We're not just selling jewelry. We're living and breathing it. It's our passion, and we're for real, not hired voices on the radio reading scripts.
Come explore our collection of GIA certified diamonds and diamond jewelry with our curated assortment of rare and exotic gemstones. Also, we're excited about our previously enjoyed Rolex timepieces, as well as our large estate jewelry collection.
Skip the noise and come feel the difference with your go-to guys for diamonds. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
This is Miller and Moulton.
Obviously, I'm not into wrestling, and so I never would have seen this last night. But apparently, they were wrestling. They were in Long Island last night.
Okay.
CM Punk came out in a John Tavares Islanders jersey. That is such a heel move. That's funny.
Adam, that's funny because the funny thing is there's not a John Smith subs down here. You're going way back in the Wayback Machine from the early days. That was supposed to be one of our sponsors we were getting.
Right. In Largo is the closest John Smith sub.
Right.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton. Text the guys what's in your mind at 21,000. That's 21000. And now, here's David Moulton.
22 minutes till the top of the hour, 16 until we're done talking. The Diamond District bonus hour and the 239 and the 904 of Miller and Moulton. MillerandMoulton.com. Go there, sign up. Floormeisters Fantasy Football Summit a week from tonight. Spots are still available. Our poll question, that Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X. It's National Filet Mignon Day, as I said growing up. Filet Mignon Day. What's your favorite cut of meat? Filet, New York strip, or ribeye? Ribeye has been winning throughout, about 50% or thereabouts. Filet and New York strips splitting pretty evenly the other 50%.
That Mark Miller, the David Moulton, Miller_Moulton on X, if you care to vote.
It's that time again, nearing the end, but not quite there yet. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
We start in 1907 today. The first taxi cabs operate in New York City. 1933, the PGA. Gene Sorensen wins 5-4 for his third PGA championship title, the sixth of his 7 majors. Today in 1935, roller derby is born, David, when the Transcontinental Roller Derby begins at the Chicago Coliseum.
Did you ever watch roller derby on TV?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just, a couple of the independent channels in the New York area, they had late night, Friday and Saturday night, they had roller derby.
When it tried to make a revival about 10 or 12 years ago, when women across the country were participating in roller derby, one of the other stations in the building, one of the afternoon jocks, she started doing roller derby. And me and one of the other employees of that station broadcast one of the roller derby matches live inside the roller rink. It's about as much fun as I've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Because we let loose. There was no holds barred. We were a few deep before we ever started.
So you guys were the PA?
Yes, but did it more as a, radio play-by-play in color type.
Right.
And it was something.
Cool.
So was the roller derby. The Manhattan Project commences today in 1942 to deliver an atomic bomb. They would deliver. 1982, David. Fast Times at Ridgemont High debuts.
Okay. We all know what that means.
That movie plays still to this day.
Well, there's one scene that certainly plays.
Down, boy. The 89 PGA Championship was today at Kemper Lakes. Payne Stewart wins the first of his 3 majors. It was 20 years ago today in Southwest Florida. Hurricane Charlie strikes Punta Gorda, Cape Coral. and surrounding areas. 2008, Michael Phelps wins 3 gold medals, all in world record time, all in one day at the Beijing Games. The 200 IM, the 200 butterfly, and the 4x200 freestyle relay. That's pretty good.
The only other day that's similar, Jesse Owens, while at Ohio State, reportedly set 3 world records in one track meet.
2016, Michael Phelps ends his career at Rio, winning the 4x100 relay, his record 23rd gold medal. And Justin Thomas wins his first major, winning the PGA today in 2017. Alfred Hitchcock.
Remember when you liked Justin Thomas?
I did?
Well, I'm just wondering if 7 years ago today you liked him.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I never have.
Gotcha.
Never been my guy. Get in the bunker. Alfred Hitchcock, Ben Hogan, Fidel Castro, Don Ho, all born today. Bobby Clark is 75. He is the pride of Flin Flon, Manitoba.
Flim Flam?
Flin Flon, I believe.
Okay.
Mark Lemke's 59 and Elvis Gervak's 54. What did I miss, David?
I think Mark Lemke is the pride of Utica, New York. For some reason, that's in my head. Mickey Mantle died 29 years ago today, on this day in 1995. And for a generation of sports fans, it was as if their youth had ended. Mickey was kind of like Namath. You know, whenever the time comes that Joe is no longer with us, there will be many a sports fan that just officially the end of my youth.
Time to see life a little bit differently. Here's Mark Miller with the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
We go to the Mexican state of Tlaxcala, where they earned a Guinness World Record by serving more than 30,000 basket tacos in 186 different flavors. They gathered more than 150 taco chefs to assemble and serve the tacos at an event Sunday in Mexico City. That's 30,000 tacos, 186 varieties. That sounds like heaven to me. For the bad, we go out in the water, where a charter captain made an unexpected catch. 56 pounds of cocaine caught between Marco Island and Everglades City near Panther Key. He says, not the usual catch, you know. We catch a lot of grouper, but never the square variety. Brandon Stearns of Real Local Fishing Charters picked up the blow and then immediately called the Coast Guard to turn in what was a little less than $1 million of cocaine. Finally, the ugly. We go to Lake Michigan, where a man attempting to swim an epic 80-mile swim across Lake Michigan gave up on the third day after losing 2 batteries for his GPS device and ending up badly off course. Jim Dreyer was pulled from the water last Thursday after 60 miles. He had been swimming from Michigan to Wisconsin for hours without a GPS, relying only on a wrist compass in his reading of the sky and waves. A support boat pulled up and informed him he'd been swimming in the wrong direction for most of the day, and that was the end of the run for him. That's a swim. Where are you going? Wisconsin. How you getting there? I'm going to swim. He didn't make it. I mean, he made it. He's alive, but he didn't make the swim. And that is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, August the 13th, 2024.
And I was right about Lemke. He was born in Utica. See, there used to be a minor league hockey team there, the Utica Devils, about an hour and a half north of Binghamton. I worked in Binghamton. The Rangers and the Devils had a minor league rivalry as well. Utica also had a beer. Okay. It was like White Label or something. I thought it was awful, but it was cheap. So I don't know. It's one of those towns driving north on Route 12 in upstate New York, and next thing you know, you're in Utica.
Never been.
Well, you're not missing much. I mean,
Yeah, I've done Buffalo for a roller hockey game. I called a game at the Odd when I was broadcasting roller hockey when they tried to make that league work for a summer. Been to the city. But other than those are my 2 stints in New York. That's really it.
Okay.
Never taken the rest of the state in.
Yeah, well, it's big, so don't start unless you're willing to finish the job. I mean, it's a lot of driving.
Exactly.
You go a long way. I mean, Lake Placid's up there. Just saying.
Would like to go there. I really would. I know it's beautiful.
By the way, the Devils minor league team is still there. So, we can regale with Seth, who will not be on the show tomorrow. But Phil Steele will be.
That works. I'll take that trade for tomorrow.
Yeah, no doubt. No, Seth's doing the college tour thing with his daughter. So no David Sampson today, no Seth Everett tomorrow. By the way, it looks like Pat Kerr went on Friday because he's in Houston today. Then he goes to Denver. And I think he's traveling on Thursday. So it looks like we'll have Pat again on Friday with more training camp tours. So everybody's playing in baseball. Not everybody played yesterday. There were 8 teams who had yesterday off, but everybody's back playing today. And, Braves in San Francisco against the Giants. Giants are trying to chase down the Braves. They're 2.5 back for the final playoff spot in the National League. Few teams in between the two, but Dodgers, Brewers in Milwaukee. Hey, listen, there's not much separating the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Brewers for the 1, 2, and the 3 seed. And a battle for second going on in the AL Central. Royals and Twins. Twins won last night. They'll play again at Target Field tonight. Rays and Marlins both in action. Rays continue their series at home against Houston. The Marlins are in Philadelphia. Speaking of the Marlins, and I know there's 4 of you that care, the new GM who's been on the job, 8 months? Maybe 9 tops? Yeah, he gutted the whole system yesterday. He fired everybody, basically. Anybody who had anything to do with Jeter and Kim Ang is basically gone. I mean, and some of them, have a track. Like Kim, I guess, hired a few people from the Astros organization, people who drafted, the guts of the current Houston team, never mind guys from before. These are guys that have, quite frankly, a much better track record than guys who have been working for the Marlins in the last 15 years. This Peter Bendix guy, Mark, Bruce Sherman has given him full reign. He has gutted the entire organization. The manager's going after this year, too. Everybody knows it. This is going to be a long rebuild.
Well, will it ever really be a rebuild? Because they'll never spend the money to finish the rebuild, if you know what I mean. By the time, the pitching staff should be pretty good next year. It really should.
Mm-hmm.
But they're never going to spend the money on the bats. That's where it costs money. They don't spend it. So is it just a rebuild or is it just spinning your wheels? Because to me, it seems like the Marlins just spin their wheels.
And I understand you take over and you want, quote, your people, unquote. But, boy, you better be right. Your people better be better than the ones you're firing. Because, the Astros don't have a GM, I think. And there are people in Houston, like 2 of the guys that got fired by the Marlins yesterday, people in Houston are like, bring him in as the general manager. So, and Mark, honestly, if you're running the Marlins, you holding on to all that pitching next year and trying to hope you put some bats around it? Or do you go, wow, pitching can get me a lot? And does he continue gutting the organization by trading the Sandy Alcantara's of the world?
I think he'll trade him.
I do too.
I think it gives you a better opportunity to get quality bats to fill your minor league system up and hope that you're getting the right prospects, that you get the bats and can keep them at least until you lose them to free agency. The Marlins, who have they signed that they keep?
That they keep?
Nobody.
No, even our buddy David Sampson, when he signed Stanton and he signed Yelich, then Jeter got rid of him, Now we can ask David next time we have him on, hey, would you have kept them?
Would you have been able to have kept them? That's really the question. Not do you want to keep them? Would you have been able from a financial standpoint to keep them on your roster?
Because I thought Jeter traded him. I thought David had been forced out by then. But so anyway, a house clean, there's 4 people paying attention, but they're probably going to be worse next year than they are this year. How do you market that, Mark? You spent 20 years doing professional sports marketing. How do you market a 105-loss team preseason?
David, I have no idea. I mean, what the Marlins have always done, rely on who the opposition is to try to draw fans because they don't have a fan base. And until they win, they never will. And when can you actually look at this team and say they are going to start winning games, regularly winning games? Everything went right for them last year to sneak in.
Mm-hmm.
Everything went right.
Mm-hmm.
You can't expect that every year. And that's been shown this year.
I'll tell you what, they do good crowds in Jacksonville for the AAA team. Miller and Moulton. Phil Steele at 8 o'clock tomorrow, a half an hour of college football talk. Miller and Moulton, millerandmoulton.com.
Do you have a sleep problem but don't want to wear a CPAP mask? This is Mark Miller for Sleep Treatment Direct. The mask wasn't working for me, and I didn't think I had an alternative. I do. We all do. They have such simple alternatives with greater success than the mask. Visit sleeptreatmentdirect.com. That's sleeptreatmentdirect.com. And if you are like me and your CPAP machine isn't working for you, it's time for a change. Call 239-444-1741. That's 239-444-1741. Sleep Treatment Direct. Sleep safe and sound.
Gentlemen, as your wife mentioned getting new flooring, but you don't want to go through the hassle, well, go see the Floor Meisters in Naples next to Costco. They understand your time and money are important, so they'll make it as painless as possible. With a huge in-stock selection of carpet and Cortec, they can get you the floor your wife's been asking for. They carry wood, vinyl, carpet, and tile. If you do it yourself, no problem. They can handle that as well. So go see TJ at the Floor Meisters and tell them, just keeping it real.
Mark Miller for Molly Maid. Why Molly Maid, you ask? Trust. Moulton was a customer for 15 years. Affordability. Didn't I just say Moulton was a customer for 15 years? Worry-free services. Our professional house cleaners are fully insured and a 24-hour warranty. Call Molly Maids today at 239-774-5839. That's 239-774-5839 or online at mollymaid.com/FTMYERS. That's mollymaid.com/FTMYERS.
Wine glasses never fall over until you get a brand new rug.
Oh, no.
Ketchup bottles act normal till you're wearing a new shirt.
Oh, you kidding me?
And rocks slide peacefully on the road till the day you get a brand new windshield. Then they fly up off the road and attack without mercy. That's why new windshields from Glass Doctor come with our windshield protection plan. Unlimited repairs and one replacement for 12 months. Don't just fix it, protect it. Glass Doctor. A neighborly company.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
Todd, have you noticed every jewelry store in town sounds like a broken record?
I do. We're all saying and claiming the same thing. Largest selection, lowest prices, non-commissioned sales team. It's the same tune over and over.
Exactly. It's just noise.
Jason and I aren't all talk. We walk the walk, brokering diamonds directly, giving you the best value on GIA certified diamonds.
That's right. We're not just selling jewelry. We're living and breathing it. It's our passion, and we're for real, not hired voices on the radio reading scripts.
Come explore our collection of GIA certified diamonds and diamond jewelry with our curated assortment of rare and exotic gemstones. Also, we're excited about our previously enjoyed Rolex timepieces, as well as our large estate jewelry collection.
Skip the noise and come feel the difference with your go-to guys for diamonds. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
This is Miller and Moulton